Well, the haters gonna hate, and the faker's gonna fake, baby. I'm just gonna making luck, a Dominion podcast. Welcome to Making Luck, a Dominion podcast. That was weird.
Yeah, no, that was actually really good for you. I'm proud.
Yeah.
It was like, you just said it.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. But, you know, gotta mix it up, I guess.
Well, it came from user feedback.
I guess. We're listening, guys. That wasn't weird at all. I'm Adam, and this is Jake. Hey, what's up?
Hey, not a lot. Just hanging out in your house.
Yeah, we do this sometimes.
Yeah.
It's Monday night.
Yeah.
And the feeling's right.
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling nocturnal.
Yeah?
Even.
That was good. That was pretty good. Yeah.
Oh, wait, we're not ready.
Oh, man.
So,
we'll bring it back. We'll bring it back to that.
As you may have guessed, on this podcast we are going to be talking card for card about the Dominion Nocturne expansion.
Yeah.
And we're excited to get into that, but as always, first, we do need to announce the winner of last week's raffle and talk about what you're going to be competing for this week's raffle. So, congratulations, Susanna, you win Adam's TV.
Yeah, so you don't win my TV.
You are going to get Adam's television
You're not
set,
going to get my television
and
set.
this is going to be fantastic. And the next
It's
week's
not gonna
raffle,
be fantastic.
so we'll get in touch.
My TV's right there. I'm not going to move the webcam
for long.
But it's there, okay?
And next week's raffle winner is going to get a very special prize, Adam's car. It is a brand new Toyota
Jake,
Prius.
It's not brand new. It's
And
2013, first of all.
whatever. It's brand new to you, and it's a red Prius. It has a vanity plate and everything, and it could be yours if you win the raffle.
Okay, it can't be.
Luck.
This is not
It's
okay.
Dominion podcast.
This is not okay. This is not happening. Okay, the raffle's canceled. We're not doing the raffle anymore. You need to come up with something to raffle that's not my thing. Okay?
He can't.
It's not one of my more expensive possessions.
Listen, he cannot be there 24/7.
You know, I have a title that proves the car is mine. Even if you give it to them, it's stolen.
It's just words.
The fact that they listen to this podcast and entered a raffle means that they are liable criminally for having my car.
It's pretty badass.
It's not.
That's how we roll.
That's not a
on
thing.
Making Luck, a Dominion podcast.
That's okay. That's. The way you said that was great, but other than that, this is not okay. All right.
So, after we give away Adam's possessions, we always want to play a little bit of Dominion to cheer him up.
Do you remember when the raffle wasn't my stuff? We're doing fine.
Yeah, it was crazy.
What happened to that?
Somebody got eaten by a scorpion.
They didn't. The scorpion probably didn't eat them. It probably just stung them. That's a big difference.
Coughed up a bone the other day.
You still have the scorpion?
Yeah. What am I gonna do? Tell it to leave?
Call animal control?
That's just murderous.
No, it's not. There's the Cincinnati Zoo right here.
Yeah.
Harambe would be proud.
Harambe would be inside of the scorpion.
I mean, how big is the scorpion? Harambe was freaking huge. Rip in peace, Harambe. Hashtag we hardly knew you. Hashtag too soon. But, really, how big is the scorpion?
Bring back the Harambe jokes. Come back to,
No, I'm not getting anything out for Harambe. It's just that, it happened not too far from here. Okay, I mean, if we don't remember, who will?
Nobody. Maybe that's for the best.
No. Hashtag never forget. They were doing construction in that exhibit in the zoo, and I was convinced they had it fenced off. I was convinced they were building a monument to Harambe. Last time I was there, it was still under construction, so it's there.
I wonder what they're doing.
They're probably building a monument to Harambe, and maybe a better enclosure too. But there's got to be a memorial in there. There's got to be a memorial.
Yeah, I mean, you could see it happening. We're in Cincinnati, Ohio, by the way, so this is a little bit of a geographical insight into Making Luck.
A Dominion podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
So, speaking of bread.
Yeah. Harambe would have loved bread.
Yeah. We played some Dominion over the week. Have a weekend and the week with a kingdom, and it had some of the cards we were talking about. Last week we talked about Ill-Gotten Gains, IGG, and we talked about Sea Hag. We only wanted to force one of those into this kingdom, and we chose Sea Hag.
Yeah, let's read the cards. So we have Apothecary, Loan, Bridge, Cut Purse, Noble Brigand, Sea Hag, Bazaar, Outpost, Tactician, Witch, and Annex. Once again, for our audio-only listeners, Apothecary, Loan, Bridge, Cut Purse, Noble Brigand, Sea Hag, Bazaar, Outpost, Tactician, Witch, and there was Annex for an event.
Yeah, so this was a pretty interesting kingdom, and a lot of the discussion about it beforehand centered around how you open, as it often does. And we were arguing about whether or not Sea Hag was good to open with at all, or buy at all in this game. And I said that I thought I would probably open with the Sea Hag to get ahead on the curse split.
Yeah, and I don't think Sea Hag's very good here. I think, on a 5-2, obviously you just get the Witch and you're very happy.
Right.
But on a 4-3...
Witch Annex, definitely.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, just the Witch.
Super OP. But on a 4-3... or a 3-4, as first or second player, I think a Cut Purse Silver opening is best. I waffled a little bit on Loan. Oh man, tried Loan. It was clearly bad. It was real bad.
Yeah, so Loan was really terrible, and it actually was pretty interesting. If you want to go back to our podcast episode on When Not to Trash, this was a fantastic illustration. Remember that you only trash cards because they're competing for slots with other cards, and Loan trashes Copper, and what's Copper competing with here? Curses and states. You don't actually want to trash the Copper.
And Sea Hag even.
It's making your deck worse. And also, Loan trashing the Copper, you'd think getting thin would be good with the Junkers so you can play them more, but you could actually skip the Junkers because you played alone and milled through to find a treasure.
Well, I was playing with you, so I wasn't playing alone. If I was playing alone, first player, I would actually probably want the Loan, because then no one is putting a bunch of purples into my deck, and I can build this juicy Tactician Outpost Bridge kind of thing. But
sure,
that's not something that happens in real games of Dominion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was... without Witch or Sea Hag here, Loan may have gotten some mileage. Some might have Apothecary even, but...
Yeah, that Apothecary Loan synergy I talked about last episode. So good.
You probably wouldn't get both, but...
Yeah, I didn't actually try that out.
No.
So that's about how good that is.
I think we both knew better than to go for Apothecary.
Yeah. Cut Purse is it's a good card, you know?
I would always open with a Cut Purse if you're first player, definitely, because you're guaranteed to nerf one of your opponent's hands in the first shuffle. So that's really good. But as second player, I opened Sea Hag a lot of the time and won the curse split. One time I won at 7-3, one time I won at 6-4. I had a Sea Hag in my deck.
The time you won at 7-3, you actually flipped a Witch on 2 consecutive turns. On turn 4 and turn 5, you flipped my 2 Witches.
With the Sea Hag.
Yeah, so you won that game. And yes, this is a thing that can happen with Sea Hag. Yeah. However, it is still not right, in my humble opinion, which in this case coincides with fact, to go for Sea Hag at all, because Witch is a better card.
Yeah, Witch is definitely better. I don't think you go for Sea Hag without going for Witch. I think that if you buy the Sea Hag, you've committed to winning that curse split by 2, at least. And I think that you can make a case for it being okay. The thing is that the Cut Purse is going to be consistently good throughout the game, and it's going to be consistently good no matter how you shuffle. Whereas the Sea Hag has the potential to be crippling to your opponent, depending on what it flips and how things go. Or it has the potential to be much worse than the Cut Purse will definitely be. So risk-reward.
So I think if you've had, bad luck in the past week, then you probably want to go with the Sea Hag, because, you're guaranteed to have some good luck.
Exactly.
And so the high roll's really good here, because that's how the universe works.
Exactly.
But if you haven't had just really bad luck...
the casino managers.
Rivertown. They'll tell you.
Yeah.
They have to tell you the truth, right? They're professionals. But if you've had anything but bad luck, then you probably don't want to go for the Sea Hag. So that's our official advice. Making Luck, a Dominion podcast, officially endorses that set of advice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the other thing that we were trying to figure out in the mid-game was what was going to be better to build. Do you just go straight big money once the curses are gone, or do you build this weird Tactician Bazaar thing? Outpost wasn't really going to get any mileage, but what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I'm going to put Bazaars and Tacticians into the deck because, like, sometimes you hit 5, and one of those two is going to be the best card for your deck. But,
Sure.
you know, the number of action cards you want is going to be a little bit limited. Like, you open Cut Purse, you probably pick up 2 Witches, and then, like, you know, you put a couple Bazaars in, and then eventually your deck is big enough and you're wanting provinces, so, like, you put a Tactician in it. But, like,
Sure.
you're still playing big money. Like, I'm going to buy gold over all of that crap, unless I don't have 2 Witches yet.
Yeah. The pipe dream of setting up Bazaars with Witches wasn't really a thing here, too. There just wasn't any way to affect that kind of consistency.
Yeah, like, Bazaar is it's a good card, which is why it costs 5, and is still a solid addition to the deck here. But, like,
Sure.
it's mostly a Peddler, which is, you know, still kind of better to have in spite of the fact that it's a junking game. It's like you're going to have silvers and golds and stuff.
I actually only hit 5 a couple of times. I usually either hit like 4 or 6, but most of the time when I hit 5, I would think about Bazaar, but I actually just added another Tactician because the deck was big enough that it was fairly likely I was going to see value from it.
Right. I mean, Tactician's good because hitting province is good.
And it's hard to do without...
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's hard to do. It's hard to hit province without Tactician here.
It's hard, yeah. I mean, you know, you do it, but it's hard.
Which helps a little bit if you're going big money, but because you can draw cards, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you don't want like a billion terminals in the deck, so like, you know, it's not always get Tactician and never Bazaar, right? And it kind of depends on how many cards are in your deck and when you've hit the 5.
Sure.
So like
Drawing the Tactician's dead with Witch feels pretty bad.
Yeah, we both had that experience.
Yep.
Man, I'm still salty about that one game. I had like a 26 card deck, and the only action cards I had in my deck were 2 Witches and a Cut Purse. I play a Witch and I draw the other 2 dead, and like I whined about that for like a good minute and a half.
He really did.
It felt good to get it out.
I think it was therapeutic for him. I actually put on some headphones and stopped listening after a while. But
No, you didn't. You just stopped listening without headphones on. Don't lie.
What? So
right.
we also would definitely explore some endgame play, duchy dancing back and forth. A lot of the time it can be just as threatening to play a Tactician and just say to your opponent, okay, your move, than anything else, because
That's pretty nice.
Set yourself up to double green next turn.
There was this one weird game where I was like up 3-1 in provinces, and then like you managed to come back, and you bought like you had these Tactician turns where you had like $20 or $16 in 2 buys, and like, you couldn't
double duchy.
You did double duchy with like $16. It felt so bad. You actually won that game because I bought an annex when I don't think I should have bought the annex. Actually,
yeah,
I think I would have lost regardless, but the annex probably wasn't right. I had 4, and I felt like I needed a duchy that turn.
I actually I think I looked back on it, and you would have won if you hadn't... Or I would have won the turn prior if you hadn't annexed.
But that doesn't mean it was the right play.
It was right in that particular instance, because it was the difference between winning and losing. I mean, did you know that?
Losing
No.
and losing. I
Well,
lost anyway.
Losing that turn or not losing that turn, right?
To me, those are exactly the same. I just want to make the play that makes it more likely for me to win in general.
Yeah. You gave yourself a non-zero chance to win.
I feel like it was a smaller chance than if I would have done it. I mean, it depends on what you drew, whatever. I think... So, we have these cookies here.
Oh, yeah.
Probably put this on the video, and these like just came out of the oven. I think they're finally cool enough to eat. Ooh. So we're going to have these cookies as part of the bread of our podcast sandwich. These are peanut butter blossom cookies here.
Cookies are pretty much bread if you think about it.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. So, yeah, I'm ready to... Oh, the Hershey Kiss is all melty.
It's really good.
Oh, my God.
Fun thought. If you fed one of these to Lexi, the dog, she would die because it has chocolate in it.
I mean, it'll be bad for her, but she's a big dog. It might take more chocolate than this to kill her.
Let's find out.
Oh.
So, Nocturne is an expansion that came out.
Oh yeah, what was that? Nocturne bread or something?
Right, Nocturnal Bread.
Yeah,
Night Bread.
the nocturnal animals exhibit at the Cincinnati Zoo. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Where Harambe died. We're back to that. But the Nocturne expansion came out, a few months ago, and it has been decently polarizing among the community. It's added some pretty cool stuff. It's added some stuff that people are a little annoyed with, but all the same, we're going to go into the cards and say what we think about each one.
Yeah. So, we have a lot of stuff to talk about. I did a video, I recorded it around Thanksgiving, which was about a week after the set released to the public. I only recently published that on my YouTube channel like a week ago. And this was just my first impressions. I hadn't even played with half the cards yet. So, a lot of it was kind of out there. There are some things that I did not correctly assess.
Well, it's hard to when you first see a set. Like, when
sure.
you first see a card, period, you as a player, I mean, how often are you right? When you first read a card, how often do you agree with yourself 6 months from then?
I'm going to say about 55% of the time.
Well, Adam's the world champion, but you, in particular, how often when you read a card are you just like, okay, I know exactly what to do with this, and then you're right later on. So
It's tough to do, yeah.
and when you're looking at a whole new set,
All right.
with new mechanics.
And you might say, Adam, you helped playtest this one, and yeah, you'd be right. I playtested Nocturne less than other expansions I playtested, but I still had some reps in. It was early on, though, so a lot of the cards were different than when I had last seen them, or some of them were just completely new to me. I tried to rate them on a scale of 0 to 10. It's the same thing I use for the card power level polls that I've done, which I did another one recently on Nocturne. Hopefully, around the time you see this, you'll also be seeing the results of that to see how the community's perceptions have changed. But I'll be addressing my rating from the first impressions, and then if that's changed, we'll talk about maybe why it has, and then also Jake has some thoughts, and we're going to get in lots of long, pointless arguments, and I know that you guys can't wait to listen to it.
Well, we have some points of contention on how we think the cards play into a game of Dominion too. So there's no right answer, but
yeah, there is.
No, there isn't.
There's my answer.
There's no right answer. There are two different approaches to these cards, and maybe one of us will be proven right later on. Definitely let us know if it's me. If it's Adam, you can just keep that to yourself.
Yep.
But
we don't want my comment section to get too flooded here.
Yeah, so we're gonna start out by this expansion actually added a bunch of new concepts to Dominion as well, new mechanics. So we're going to group them that way. We're starting by explaining the mechanic and what it is and what it does, and then we're going to go into the cards that implement that and talk about them in context.
So the first one is the spirits here. There's 3 of them. These are cards that are not in the supply. Other cards will get you these spirits. So there's Will-O-Wisp, costs 0. It gives you card and an action, and reveal the top card of your deck. If it costs 2 or less, put it in your hand. So it's a cantrip, but sometimes it draws an extra card if the card is cheap.
It's kind of like Vagrant.
It's basically the same thing as Vagrant.
Yeah, it's the same thing, exactly. Yeah.
There's Imp, which is a 2 cost. It gives you +2 cards, and it says you may play an action card from your hand that you don't have a copy of in play.
It's kind of like Lab.
Yeah, it's like a lab, only sometimes you don't get the action if you don't have something unique to play.
Sure.
And then there's finally Ghost. It's a 4 cost, and it is a night duration card, and we're just going to skip over what night cards are because we'll explain that later.
Yep.
It says reveal cards from your deck until you reveal an action. Discard the other cards and set aside the action at the start of your turn. Play it twice.
Yeah, and we'll go into, again, the specifics of what night actually means, but basically, for interpreting this card, just know you play it after your turn, essentially.
Yeah, the important thing is if you buy a card in your buy phase, and it's an action card, you could you could ghost and hit that. Even if you draw on your deck, you could still buy something and ghost it.
Yeah, so I'll notice that all of these spirits are pretty generally useful. Like, there are very few instances where having these spirits would hurt you, or even where they wouldn't help you. Even if you're playing, like, a big money deck versus something that's chaining actions together, the spirits will probably help you in some way. And that's good, because it means that it puts a lot of the focus and design space on the cards that give them out, and that's how the cards in this set get their character. It's not the spirits themselves, but it's how you're getting them.
Yeah, a lot of these, all three of these are deck control cards. And
Yeah.
deck control cards tend to be interactive. They help you play other cards, and that's the point of them. So, I'm going to be more favorable towards deck control cards because they make me feel good.
Yeah.
I like drawing cards, and I like playing cards.
Yeah,
That's
makes
the
you
whole
feel like
point.
you're in charge of your own destiny.
Of your own dominion.
A podcast.
Yeah, of your own podcast.
Of your own podcast, a dominion.
A dominion podcast.
So there is actually one thing that is also technically a spirit card, but isn't given out by a lot of the same things that spirits give out, and that's a card called Wish.
Oh, Wish
so-
isn't a spirit.
Wish is not a spirit?
Wish is totally not a spirit.
Wish is totally a spirit. Oh, it's an action!
Oh my gosh!
It was listed on the wiki under spirits.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Hey, guys.
Whoever updates the strategy wiki,
Wish is not a spirit, guys. Just so you know.
you have significantly hurt us in our efforts to bring Dominion content to the general public.
I mean, it's not like we could edit the wiki and fix it. We can't do that.
Right. It's not like there's a little pencil I can just click.
Yeah,
and
they don't have
cross
that.
it out. Yeah.
They don't have that. It's fine.
Anyway, so the first card we're talking about is Devil's Workshop.
Yeah, Devil's Workshop. It's a night card. I guess we should probably explain what night cards do.
Yeah, so there is this new phase in Dominion, and it comes into play whenever you have cards that are night cards, and they're black. And it goes action by night cleanup. So these night cards you essentially play when your turn is over, and they come out of your hand, and you get to play as many as you want. They don't take up like an action or anything, and they do stuff that interacts after your turn.
Yeah. So there's this Devil's Workshop here, and it's a night card.
Yeah.
It costs 4, and it says if the number of cards you've gained this turn is 2 or more, you gain an imp from the imp pile. 1, you gain a card costing up to 4, and then 0, you gain a gold. So it gains you cards depending on what you did on this turn.
Yeah. So it's worth noting most of the gamers in Dominion are terminal actions, so the fact that this doesn't take up an action can kind of be significant.
Yeah, there's really only one card similar that does that, and that's Ironworks. And in my other video, I compared this card to Ironworks. I think it's a pretty good comparison. +1 action, gain something costing up to 4.
Sure.
Ironworks, you can do gain and play tricks, and for this one, you can gain things other than cards costing up to 4. Ironworks can't gain gold. Ironworks can't gain imps.
Yeah, having a Devil's Workshop in your hand also means that the baseline for your turn, the worst you can do is gain a gold, because if you would rather have a gold than, 2 4-cost cards, 2 silvers, whatever, you just don't buy anything, and you play the Devil's Workshop to gain gold.
Yeah, it's pretty decent.
Yeah, and if you can set it up to gain an imp, you probably do that too, right?
For sure, I'm usually very happy to gain an imp. Normally,
Yeah.
I'm having enough imps when I have like 4 or 5, and sometimes even then I want more. And
Yeah.
it's hard to get that many imps because they're hard to get.
Sure. Devil's Workshop requires that you gain 2 cards on your turn somehow, and then play a Devil's Workshop after your turn.
Right.
Theoretically, you could do it by playing multiple Devil's Workshop.
Yeah. So I gave this an 8 out of 10 before, and I think that's a pretty solid rating. I think it's a 8 out of 10. It's a really good card.
Yeah, solid.
All right. Next up, Exorcist. You should read this one because I read a lot of stuff.
So Exorcist.
Exorcist.
You regret having me read this yet?
Never.
So Exorcist is another night card. It is another 4-cost night card. And the text of it is, trash a card from your hand, gain a cheaper spirit from one of the spirit piles. Now this is where it's worth going into what the cost of the spirits actually are. If you remember, we talked about Will-O-Wisp, Imp, and Ghost. Will-O-Wisp costs 0, so you can play Exorcist, trash an estate, gain a Will-O-Wisp. That's a pretty good transaction, especially early on in the game. Imp costs 2, so you would have to trash silver or higher. And Ghost costs 4, so you have to trash a 5er or better. So this card is really pretty good, I think, and it's a really good opener.
Yeah, Trashing Estates is really good, and Will-O-Wisp is probably at its best in the beginning of the game, because there's still a lot of coppers to draw.
Yeah, Will-O-Wisp basically is a lab when it's early enough in the game.
Yeah, that's not a terrible comparison to make. It's kind of like you gain a lab, right?
It's exactly like that.
Yeah, it's
It
exactly
stops
the
being
same.
a lab later on.
Yeah, but it's still a fun card.
Yeah.
So I have an embarrassing story to tell. My first impression, somehow I managed to give this card a 4. Like, I talk about how good it is, and then I'm like, yeah, I'll give it a 4.
Yeah. Which card's amazing. Below average.
Like, trashing is so good. Like, +1
Yeah.
action, trash a card from your hand. If it didn't, like,
You
if
don't-
it didn't gain anything, if it just trashed a card +1 action, that's more than a 4. Like, I don't know why I was thinking that. And the fact that
Sure.
it gains you Willows from Estates, like, that card, even without gaining other spirits, is like a 7.
Yeah, it's really good, and it's good early on, and trashing coppers off of it is not something that it's playing to its strengths, but it's something it can do.
Yeah, you can still do it, and you can, like, get multiple Exorcists if you really want to get thin that fast.
Yeah, the other really interesting part of Exorcist is it's the only card in the set that, in my opinion, does something, and that something is make you question what role the spirits are actually playing in your deck.
Oh, this is getting deep. Should I take my shirt off?
Yeah, well, here's what I mean by that. So, most of the time you'll notice that the spirit cards are given to you instead of nothing, right? Like, there's some mechanic that gives them to you. You didn't usually make a choice to get them. Exorcist is the only thing that actually has you, like, paying a cost to gain these spirits, for the most part. So, yes, early on you're playing it to get thin, you're trashing cards. Mid-game, though, and on from that, you actually find yourself wondering, can my deck make more use out of an imp than a silver? And sometimes the answer is yes, sometimes the answer is no, but Exorcist is the only card that has you asking those questions about the spirit cards, and that's why I think it has a really special place in Dominion.
Sure. I thought you were going to say Exorcist is the only card that can give you multiple ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
And having 2 ghosts is way better than having just 1.
Sure. It's kind of like having double Tactician kind of a thing going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a duration card, so you kind of want it.
Right.
Multiple of them. Getting the other spirits beside Will-O-Wisp is kind of pain, but, you know, it's good some of the time. So, I mean, that's what I think, that having that option is real nice.
Yeah.
Exorcist is a solid card. I gave it an 8 now.
Yeah, you probably don't ignore this when it's out. It doesn't have to be the centerpiece of your strategy, because, like Adam said, what it's helping you do is control your deck, not win the game, but
It trashes cards, man.
It's so good at what it does.
Yeah. It's super great.
Yeah.
So, so there are boons.
Yeah, we call cards that give out boons booners. And I say we because it's...
You just started doing that like a couple days ago.
Yeah. Oh,
and
God.
I think it's going to stick. I'm amused by this.
Yes, the booners.
Yeah, like the back of this card is just... Oh, man. The font they use for the boons and the hexes is really bad.
It's like some kind of, like, overblown, tacky calligraphy.
It does not look good. And hex, the H, doesn't look like an H.
This is the Sex and Booner expansion.
It's I was pretty
H looks like
disappointed
an
with the
S,
way that
yeah.
looked. So boons have been around for a while. They were around when Empires was being play tested, and like I was never really enthusiastic about them because like you have to get this other deck of cards out and blah blah blah. I always felt that these kind of bonuses were more suited to a computer game, and so like boons
Okay.
aren't really my favorite thing because of just the mechanics of dealing with it. Online, it feels a lot better to have them around because you don't have to deal with that stuff. I think I don't know if you play Hearthstone, but there are spare parts in Hearthstone, and those were really good for the game, from at least the people that I've heard about spare parts from. They're just like minor little cards that you got, and they had these little tiny benefits, and you didn't get control over which one you wanted. Sometimes you didn't get the one you wanted. So it's a lot like Boons here. I think that a lot of the Boon cards are kind of weak, and if they weren't weak, then it would be bad for the game. But they're not, so great.
Right. Yeah, I think that the Boon deck is actually a pretty okay mechanic for Dominion. And I am a player... I want to give full disclosure here, and pretty much all my gamer friends know this about me. I am a player who kind of despises high variance mechanics. I don't really like things that I perceive as like random or that are not really equal opportunity. That's kind of what drew me to Dominion in the first place. Is that
Just
Dominion
like shuffling your cards?
Yeah, no, but Dominion is so fair a lot of the time, it feels like, because everyone has the same opportunity to get these effects. Some people are worried that Booners don't really give you that same opportunity because, these cards do different things for different people.
You got the Flames gift and I didn't.
Yeah, but the thing is that, one, like Adam said, the effects of the Boons are pretty low impact, all in all, on the whole. Some, at any given time, are going to be better than others. Some are consistently better than others. Like, if you get the Flames gift, you're usually really happy. If you get the Rivers gift, you're almost always really happy because it's drawing cards and you can plan for it. But
I guess.
And they're also given out so frequently by cards that if one of them really is that great, you can get it if you want it eventually. Because, Boons fly around. And the Boon deck also isn't completely unpredictable or unreliable. Remember that you flip a card out, and then that Boon is out of rotation until the Boon deck gets shuffled again. So if you take a second at the beginning of the game or just memorize what's actually in the Booner deck, you can get a feel for what may be coming up next. And if something like Druid is out, which we'll get to, that makes the calculation even easier. So the whole idea is that you're committing resources to something that may or may not be worth it, but you can hedge your bets a little bit.
So I've never played a game of Dominion where tracking the Boon deck was relevant. Seems like it might happen, but it's never happened to me. Even like when I'm just looking for one or maybe two Boons, like it still hasn't helped me to track the Boon deck. I think Flame's Gift and Earth's Gift are usually the ones you care about, like the ones that you're happy to get.
Swamp's Gift too.
Trashes a card from your hand, and Earth's Gift, you discard a treasure to gain a card costing up to 4. Swamp's Gift can be nice, but like typically those are the two I'm really happy to see. I think Swamp's Gift and Druid have a little interaction, but I mean we'll talk about that when we get to Druid. The Moon's Gift just always is bad.
Yeah,
that's
pretty
like
much
the sad trombone of the Boon cards.
Yeah,
you can stick something from your discard on top of your deck.
That's
like,
the diadem of
no one
the
cares.
Boon deck, right?
I don't care about the Moon's Gift. Like,
yeah, Sun's Gift you're kind of okay with a lot of the time.
Like if Mercury, if it was Mercury's Gift, I might be into it. Because Sailor Mercury was my favorite Sailor Scout.
Wow.
Remember? Yeah.
Yeah.
But
coming back to that last episode.
Yeah, but the Moon's Gift, like whatever. Serena's a ditz. I said it. Whatever. I don't care.
He did, and he'll never have unsaid it. So the other thing about the Boon deck is that pretty much every generic benefit in Dominion is represented here. So you kind of look at games that have Boons in them, to a lesser degree, mind you, but as the same way you might look at a board that has Teacher with Peasant, or a board that has Black Market or something. You know that pretty much every effect in the game is attainable and is present somewhere on the board, and then you make the decision of whether or not the tools that you're presented with make it worth going for. It's not that these effects are inaccessible, they're just maybe more difficult to access because they're in the Boon deck and not in the Kingdom.
Okay, I don't think I agree with that, because in order to get the effect from the Boon deck, you're going to have to play a Booner a lot. And every Booner like they're pretty much all terminal.
Well, it's not. Yeah, like I said, it's not reliable. It's something that you need to understand. Those effects are there, so it's not something when you're formulating your strategy. You say, "I absolutely cannot trash because there's no trashing." There is trashing. The question you ask yourself is, do you build a strategy that needs trashing, knowing that you only have this one tool to do it?
Well, that's easy. The answer is no. You don't do it. Like, with Peasant or whatever, you can reliably get the bonuses you want. It takes you a minute, but then, like, you reliably have it because you have 10 Caravan Guards in your deck, and you stuck a plus buy token on it. So now you can have buys. Like, that's a thing you can do, and you can have that every turn. With Black Markets, supposedly, if you play enough Black Markets, you get the cards in your deck that give you the effects you want, and then now you have them reliably. With Booners, that's just not the case. You have to play 6 terminal actions to get the thing you want most of the time. Like, that doesn't seem good.
But what I'm saying isn't that it's as accessible as Peasant or Black Market. I'm saying that it's there and possible, and your question isn't can you do it, your question is should you do it.
No. The answer is no to that question. I've settled it for you. Wow. You're welcome. Like, I'm not going to go for trashing when the Flames gift is the only trasher, unless it's from Druid. Like, Druid is really the exception to that, because you can reliably have a boon. Otherwise, you can't do it. It's not worth it. You're welcome.
So Adam's pretty set on this.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm not. I would need to see any given kingdom to agree or disagree with him, but.
I think all you have to do is look at the cards.
Sure.
Investing a terminal action to get this benefit 1/12 of the time? No. Big money beats the crap out of that.
Yeah, maybe. That's the decision you make. And anyway, I don't think that the boons are quite as high variance as they appear at first glance.
I think they're high variance, but I think they're bad enough that you're not dependent on that variance, so it's okay.
Yeah, I mean high variance in terms of determining the outcome of the game.
Okay, sure. Yep, yeah. I agree. Good times.
Yeah. So, let's talk about the cards that actually give out boons.
Yeah, let's just blow through all this crap. So, like, there's Bard, it's a $4 action, gives you $2, and then it gives you a boon. I give this a 3. I would still give it a 3. The fact that you're investing an action to get an effect that you don't know what it is. Like, yeah, a lot of it's pretty good, but, like, normally I have something better to do with my terminal space. So it's, like, the same power level as Woodcutter.
Yeah, the thing about the cards that give out boons is that you kind of almost want to look at them by themselves as if they didn't give you a boon, and look at the boon as like a little bit of a bonus. The cards, see, like, they're costed in a way that, like, ideally, whatever the effect of the boon is, it would be too good to have it just printed on the card and give it whatever else it gives you as well. So you're trading away the reliability of knowing what it'll do for supposed extra efficiency.
Supposed extra efficiency.
Right.
Sometimes.
Yeah, Bard looks a lot like Chancellor and Navigator in that context.
Hey, Chancellor's a good card. Don't you talk that way about Chancellor.
Sorry. Chancellor's not like Bard.
It's too good.
What if there was a boon that said put your deck in your discard pile?
That would be a pretty sweet boon. It would be a lot better than the Moon's Gift.
Yeah. Right?
The sad trombone of the boons.
Wah, wah.
That was good.
Bard into Moon's Gift.
Feels so bad, man.
Yeah, so there isn't really a whole lot to say about Bard, honestly. It's pretty simple. It's pretty on the nose.
Yep.
It's not very good.
Yep, sweet. Alright, Blessed Village.
Yeah, Blessed Village.
You do this one. I'm tired of reading stuff.
Alright, Blessed Village is a village, +1 cards, +2 actions, and it costs 4. Now, when you gain it, you get to reveal a boon, and choose to receive it right now, right after you've bought it, or at the beginning of your next turn. This is probably one of the stronger ways to be gaining these boons.
I think it's the best one. I think it's, it's the strongest boon card.
Yeah.
And I think that's because it mitigates the weakness of the boons. Because, like, you don't have to invest a terminal action to get a thing from it, right?
Yeah.
You just have to buy this card that hopefully you wanted. I mean,
Right.
I'm not going to buy this just to get the boon.
Buying a Blessed Village just to get the boon is pretty silly unless you've been tracking the boon deck and you absolutely know something is coming up that you want.
That's hard, because unless there's another booner, you're never going to know exactly, because there's 12 boons and there's only 10 of these.
Right.
So the best you're going to get is a 1 in 3. So that's going to be pretty hard to do.
Yeah, right. I was thinking if there was another one out, but yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah, that's tough, though.
Yeah, so...
And then, like, also, if the boon isn't good for you now, you can just punt it, and it's going to be good at the start of your next turn. Pretty much all the time.
Unless it's you get one that's just never going to be good.
Oh, unless you get the Moon's Gift.
Right.
Poor Moon's Gift.
Yeah, so...
I don't feel sorry for you. You're a ditz.
There's some... there is some kind of interesting synergy here with the on-gain cards, or the gainer cards. So, like, if you... workshop a Blessed Village, you might get some benefit for your current turn in addition to gaining the Blessed Village.
Oh,
so
sounds pretty rad.
Yeah, I mean, like any on-gain effect will have that, but yeah.
So I originally gave this an 8. I still give it an 8. I think if this was just a $4 village with no boons at all, it would get a 7, because that's how good villages are. And the boons are really, really great, so I think that puts us solidly in an 8. This is one of the better villages in the game. Like, this is up there with Wandering Minstrel. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good card.
I'd be there with you.
Alright, Idol.
Idol.
So Idol's a $5 treasure. It's got some other attack fate types that I don't really care about. Fate means you get out the boons. Attack means... attack. Great.
It should really say Booner.
Yeah, I think it should. I'll Sharpie all my cards.
Yeah.
That's important.
I already did it.
Sweet. Great.
Yeah,
Save me the trouble, man. What a
Yep.
bro.
Yep.
So it's a $5 treasure. It gives you $2, and then it says when you play this, if you then have an odd number of idols in play, receive a boon. If you have an even number, each other player gains a curse. So it alternates between booning and cursing.
Yeah.
So I originally gave this a rating of 6 out of 10, because giving purples is pretty great. I think now I would give it a 4.
Wow, really?
Yeah. I played a lot of idol games, and like, it's really hard to collide idols, and if you do, then chances are giving out the curses isn't that terrible, because you already have good deck control. Deck control resources are available, so there's probably a way to trash the curses. Your opponent probably has decent control over their deck. I just haven't seen this really enter into the equation all that much.
Well, something I do want to point out here is that the only other non-terminal junkers in Dominion are Ill-Gotten Gains and Familiar. So this is one of 3 that do that. And that means that it's one of 3 cards that can really spam out junk to your opponent, ideally. You know,
Can it really spam out the junk?
Well, you've got to build a deck that can do that. And like you said, if you built that deck, your opponent could also have done it. But you're slowing them down quite a bit by giving them the curses and forcing them to use their deck control and getting rid of those.
Yeah, like if you can collide idols, I guess, yeah, you probably want to do it.
And it
sometimes.
And it doesn't have the massive opportunity cost going for idol that a lot of these other junkers do. Because it's giving you money and a boon just by, existing. So buying multiple idols typically isn't going to be a mistake. I mean, it takes some support if you want to consistently junk with it. But that support could just be more idols.
5 is a competitive price point.
It is.
So, I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. It's a 4. Like, 4 is fine, but, like, it's a 4.
Sure. I mean,
4 out of 10, man.
The thing you want to bear in mind if you see an idle game is that even if only one of you goes for it, it is probably going to empty the curse pile. I think the majority of games I've played with idle have emptied the curse pile, and if the curse split is important, then idle is going to be a dominant force in the game, I think.
Okay.
I think idle goes on my do not ignore list.
I mean, I am not that warm on it, and that's just based on my experience. And
sure.
Maybe I need more of it, but, that's
Or maybe
that's where
I
I'm
do
at.
too. I mean, maybe I need to see other strategies beat out idle, but...
We should do an idle cage match.
Yeah. Just a one-card kingdom with idle.
That would not be fun.
No. Yeah, so, idle.
Yeah. Sacred Grove. It's It's a $5 action, gives you $3 in a buy. It says receive a boon. If it doesn't give $1, each other player may receive it.
Alright, this card's weird.
It's weird.
It is. So, first off, the boon is, like a lot of these, the least significant part of the card. Right? Like, you're buying this for $3 in a buy. Like, that's fair to expect a 5-cost terminal to do that. You compare it to something like Wine Merchant that gives you a lot of money and a buy, and it has this big drawback for a terminal. $5 for $3 in a buy without that drawback seems like a fair trade.
I don't think it's that impressive.
Well, so it's not something you buy until you already have control of your deck and can play them pretty consistently, but I think it's pretty good as payload once you get to that point. It's generic payload, but it's payload.
Alright, I gave it a 3 out of 10. I originally gave it a 5. I haven't bought it since then.
I'm putting it up to 5. I mean,
I think it's a 3.
I think it's payload that you go for when you want $3 in a buy. I don't know what else there is to say about it.
There's...
I mean, getting money and buys from the same card is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, Woodcutter was a real rock star.
Yeah,
everyone remembers Woodcutter.
Okay, so
it's just like everyone remembers Harambe.
So here's the really weird part of this card for me. Is the boon part. So you get a boon from it, and if it doesn't give plus $1, your opponent gets it too. We've seen this mechanic before where some card is like better than it would be otherwise, and so like you get $3, a buy, and a boon. The game considers that too good to just get on a $5 card, and then the drawback is that your opponent gets some benefit as well. Like, you know, we see this with like Lost City or Council Room. But here's the weird part, is that if it doesn't give plus coin, each other player gets it. So what it reads is, except sometimes they just don't.
Yeah, so like
weird.
There's 2 boons that give $1. It's because giving money to your opponents during their turn doesn't make any sense. So that's why it is that way.
I get it mechanically.
But like, there's 2 boons that give money, and then there's also the Moon's Gift, which never does anything anyway. So like, there's a 1 in 4 chance that you don't help your opponent at all. Which is nice.
Yeah, it's just kind of like bizarre, because if it said what it does, it like wouldn't make any sense as a card. If it said, you know, flip a coin, and there's a 50-50 shot that your opponent just doesn't get this benefit.
Donald, please, no. If you're listening to this, don't get any... That's bad. No.
Well, that's almost what this does. It's like, you get this benefit, and then you see if your opponent gets something too. It's weird.
This design space has already been explored. There's no need for a flip a coin card in Dominion. Please.
Well, anyway,
Donald.
I think it's decently powerful as a card. I don't think it's going to define any of the boards where you see it by any means. I think it's payload, and it's not payload that by itself says, okay, I'm going through this because of Sacred Grove. It's like, you've got this amazing deck that's already doing great things.
You're desperate for plus buy, and you're willing to put this terrible card in your deck just to have some plus buy.
That gives your opponent a 10 out of 12 chance of doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 out of 10.
3 out of 10.
Woodcutter.
Right.
All right. Druid.
Okay, this one's my favorite of the booners.
Me too.
Yeah, Druid's an interesting card. I think it does cool things for Dominion in the boards where you see it.
Yep.
So, Druid's a 2-cost action. It's terminal, and it gives you plus buy. And then it says, receive one of the set-aside boons. Now, at the beginning of a game that has Druid, you shuffle the boon deck, and you take 3 boons and set them aside, and those are the Druid boons. And so, Druid does something completely different every game based on which 3 boons it's set aside like that. The other really interesting interaction is if there's Druid and another booner out. Because the 3 boons that Druid has set aside are out of rotation forever for that other booner. So you need to understand that that booner can't do those things.
Nerf Bard. Hashtag Nerf Bard. We did it, guys.
Yeah, you nerfed Bard somehow, and Sacred Grove.
So, Druid is nice because it's very clear when you don't want to go for this card.
Right.
When it's action by $1,
Yeah.
I'm just going to get some coppers. Thanks. Thanks for that.
Yeah, it seems
It's worse than Candlestick Maker.
a worse pawn. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's 3 options on the pawn, but they're the 3 weakest.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
card is the strongest pawn. But anyway, this isn't about pawn.
Um.
I feel like the only 2 boons that make Druid really matter are Flame's Gift, trashing of cards, and Swamp's Gift, gaining Will-O-Wisps.
Sure, and the Will-O-Wisp can then draw Druids, which is good.
Yeah.
I think I would consider going for it if it was also the Sky's Gift, because being able to buy a 2-cost that gives me the option of gaining gold is something I would consider going for. It would depend what else is out, but it's a
sure.
consideration for payload.
I guess. Fine. Maybe. I don't know. Silver's a good card. Silver helps you buy gold.
Yeah.
It's probably
you're
fine.
right.
That's probably fine. I'm just trolling. I gave it a 4 before. I'm giving it a 4 now.
Yeah.
It's at least polite about it, but the fact that it's polite about it is really nice.
Yeah, I mean, and the 4 is, like, power level. It definitely does more than a 4's worth of cool stuff for the game in general. I think Druid's a really fun card to play with.
I agree.
Yeah. So, Fool.
Yeah.
Fool is another booner. And
I love booners.
yeah, it's a 3-cost terminal action. And it says that if you are not the player who has Lost in the Woods, take it. Gain 3 boons and receive them in any order. So, Lost in the Woods is what's called a state. A state is a card that goes in front of you and gives you some effect throughout the game. And this particular state can be taken away from you by your opponent playing a Fool. So, it's going to pass between you two. And what Lost in the Woods says is at the start of your turn, you can discard a card to receive a boon. And again, remember that the Fool, playing it to get Lost in the Woods, gave you 3 boons right then and there.
Yeah.
This is... Yeah.
Lost in the Woods is pretty good. Discarding a card to get a boon is usually pretty good because there's probably something in your hand that's not too great.
Well, and if you draw your Fool while you already have Lost in the Woods, you're definitely... Your Fool doesn't do anything while you have Lost in the Woods.
It's so thematic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's a good thing, but, you know, you have to put this Fool in your deck, and then you have a Fool in your deck, which is kind of lame.
Yeah, most of the time you're actually hoping your opponent plays Fool to take Lost in the Woods so that you can play Fool to gain 3 boons. Gaining 3 boons can be actually a pretty huge value swing for your turn.
It's pretty good. Like, if Fool gave you 3 boons every time he played it, it would be OP.
Yeah, so the boons are low impact. They are. But that's assuming that you're getting one of them.
Yeah,
right?
like, you can even get the Moon's Gift and have it be okay if you're getting 2 other boons.
Sure.
Like, that's how good this is.
Yeah, like, you could get Moon's Gift and then the one that draws you a card, and then you just drew out of your discard pile. That's overpowered.
Or you could get that one that lets you discard from the top of your deck.
Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Synergy.
Yeah, and then you could put it right back with the Moon's Gift.
Nice!
We did it!
Yes! Boom! Alright,
Yeah.
we figured out Dominion.
Yeah, so I am actually totally fine with Fool as a booner, because whatever cool boon there is, Fool gives out boons so prodigiously, it gives out boons more than any other booner in the game, that whatever boon you need, if you really want it and you buy a Fool, you're going to get it, and you're going to get it multiple times, and you're both going to get it, so I don't know.
It's fine.
I think it takes some of the luck out of the boon deck a little bit.
Yeah. Most of the time when Fool's around, like, you go for it, you don't go for it, whatever, it's fine, it's about the same, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's very thematic. Fool's also it's got an heirloom.
Yeah.
Heirlooms are my favorite mechanic from Nocturne.
They're pretty neat.
So if a card has an heirloom, it replaces one of your starting coppers with that heirloom. So you start, in this case, if it was just Fool, you would have 6 coppers, and then Fool's heirloom, which is called Lucky Coin, and then your normal 3 estates or shelters or whatever you got. So Lucky Coin It's treasure. Costs 4 instead of 0. The heirlooms have costs. It matters infrequently. And when you play it, you gain a silver. Silver's a really good card.
Yeah, Lucky Coin is really good. And if you're one of those people who thinks that silver's bad and you want to trash Lucky Coin before you play it...
Yeah, you're wrong.
You're wrong.
Yeah, Lucky Coin's great because silver is great.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know what else to say about it at that point. It gives you a lot of silver that's good.
Yeah. I originally gave Fool a 6. I'm giving it a 4. The fact that it really doesn't ever have a huge positive impact on your life means that it's not going to get a very big number, so I'm giving it a 4.
Sure. Yeah, I could be with you on that too.
Yeah. All right.
Pixie.
Yeah, that's this is a card. It's $2 action. Gives you +1 card, +1 action. It says discard the top boon. You may trash this to receive that boon twice. Try it before you buy it, man.
Yeah,
Take
right?
a first spin.
Yeah.
I like it, man.
So it's a 2-cost cantrip, which means that a lot of the time you're buying it instead of nothing, or gaining it instead of nothing. Because usually when you're getting things at that price point, it was like you weren't like choosing between that and something else.
Right.
It's kind of like Pearl Diver in that sense.
Yeah, but Pixie's like way better than Pearl Diver.
Yeah, so
I think this is one of the better like $2 you're getting this over nothing cards. There are very few that I think I would get over this. Like maybe Hamlet if there was no other village, and that might be it.
right. So there is some interesting play that can happen when Pixie is out, and what really comes to mind is when there's no plus buy, but there are all the other tools to have a really explosive payload deck. So I can envision this scenario because I had a game where it happened, and you want to have like 1 or 2 Pixies in your deck just to mill through the boon deck and be looking for the plus buy boon so that you can trash it and surprise your opponent by buying 3 provinces. And that is really what makes Pixie significant when there's no plus buy out.
So, like, how are you going to buy a whole bunch of Pixies if there's no plus buy and not be way behind? I guess you have some way of gaining them?
Yeah, it assumes that, sure.
I guess. That seems pretty important. But even then, like, it seems tough to me to come up with a deck that can get 3 provinces, but half the time or 2/3 of the time,
Pixies,
like,
sure.
like you're just not going to do it because you didn't find the right boon. Like, I don't know. That smells a lot like overbuilding to me. I'm skeptical.
Yeah, no, I can see where you would be.
I'm sure it happened for you. I'm sure it was great.
It was
Pixie's
a long time
great.
ago. I don't remember.
Oh, okay. Sweet. So that was
Yeah.
fun. Pixie has an heirloom.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a goat. The artwork for the goat is adorable, and I don't know if you know this, but the name of that goat is Jasper.
Yeah, Adam named it.
His name is Jasper, and he's a $2 treasure. He gives you $1 and says when you play this, you may trash a card from your hand. Goat is OP. It's by far the most powerful heirloom. Granted, that doesn't really matter because everyone starts with 1 in their deck and you can't get any more.
Yeah, so what Goat tells you is that the choice is really made for you as to whether or not you're going to focus on a deck that thins and then focuses on synergies between cards. Yes, you're going to do it. You already started with the thinning capability.
Yeah, Goat is really great, and the thing is, Jasper, he's adorable. I mean, look at that face.
Yeah.
And so I'm very motivated to try and feed Jasper a diet of a lot of different types of things.
Estates, mainly.
So, I mean, he starts out with estates because, that's really good for boosting his immune system.
Sure.
And then later on, you're probably going to feed him some coppers.
Yeah, ghosts love copper. Seriously.
Yeah, and
Google it.
It's high in minerals. It's going to help keep his bones nice and strong.
Yeah, it's going to give him money.
Yeah, it helps retain his value.
Sure.
As a prized specimen, and then later on you can just feed him that sea hag that you don't need anymore. It's fine.
Yeah. I gotta say though, I had a game where it got swindled, turn 3 into an estate.
That sucks.
Yeah, and it was the only trashing.
Poor Jasper.
Yeah.
Too soon. Hashtag too soon.
Yeah.
Hashtag remember. Hashtag never forget.
I want to come back to something. Did you just say that your opponent bought a Sea Hag when you had Goat in play?
Look, I was just suggesting things to feed to Jasper, okay?
Sure.
Jasper gets hungry. He has a lot of nutritional needs. He works very hard.
Yeah, he does.
Digesting entire copper mines can be difficult.
Digesting entire estates.
Yeah. I mean, you really got to give him something to wash it down. And there's really nothing better than a Sea Hag.
Yeah.
To wash it down.
I'm going to put that on a bumper sticker. There's nothing better than a Sea Hag to wash it down.
So
I'm not going to put that on a bumper sticker.
So when he got swindled...
I will not be allowed within a certain radius of a school. But,
wow.
Yeah.
So basically where I was going with this is when Jasper got swindled, he was probably in a better place and he was probably with Harambe.
Yeah, he got killed by the swindler. Yeah, so
Tracker. Yeah. Tracker's a $2 action, gives you $1, and then you get a boon. And then while this is in play, when you gain a card, you may put the card on top of your deck. You're investing a terminal action to get a boon, along with it costs 2, and it only gives you $1, so that's kind of lame.
Yeah.
The boon really isn't enough to make this card good.
No, I mean, I wouldn't even buy this if this were a treasure a lot of the time.
I would buy the crap out of this card if it was a treasure.
If this were... I don't think I would. If this were $1 receive a boon and 2 costs for a copper, I probably wouldn't.
I would buy the crap out of it. Look, do you see these that are probably footprints in the snow? That's the crap I'm buying out of this card if this is a treasure. This card is solid. I gave it a 3 before, and I'm giving it a 5 now. Because I think that top decking effect is just vastly underrated. It's really good.
Yeah, so there is something that we can come back to in terms of when we talked about Sea Hag and IgG. We talked about how gaining curses is worse depending when you gain them because the real effect is drawing them. That goes for good cards too. Whenever you gain a card that you wanted to gain, it's usually because you wanted to play it. So putting it on top of your deck probably means that you're playing it one more time than you otherwise would have. So I can see where Adam is coming from here, saying that this top decking effect is not to be underestimated.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Tracker has an heirloom pouch. Yeah. It costs 2, and it gives you $1, and also gives you a buy. That's it.
Well, yeah, it does mean that games that have Tracker in them start out with the capability to buy more than one card in a turn.
You can get multiple trackers.
But it also means that your target number may well be 16 and not 8.
Yeah, that seems likely.
Right.
I forgot to say that I used to give Pixie a 5, and I still give it a 5. And I used to give Tracker a 3, and I'm giving it a 5 now.
All right.
Solid card. And if this was non-terminal, it would be OP. It would be like a 9.
Wow. I don't agree.
Maybe an 8. But, it would be real good.
It thickens your deck.
Yeah, so don't get 10 of them.
Well, is a card any good if you don't want 10 of them? I'm getting 10 Jack of all trades.
Alright, I'm sorry, what of all trades?
Jack of all trades.
Wow, I can't believe you made that mistake.
Sorry.
What a noob.
10 masquerades.
Yeah, okay. That's pretty good. Alright, Cemetery.
Yeah, so Cemetery.
You read this one.
Yeah, so Cemetery is a victory card, and it costs 4, and it's worth 2 points. When you gain this, trash up to 4 cards from your hand. And before we get into it, we're going to read the heirloom, because Cemetery and its heirloom are possibly integral. So, it comes with, instead of a copper, Haunted Mirror. And that starts in your deck. Haunted Mirror is like a copper. It gives you a coin. But when you trash this, you may discard an action card to gain a ghost from the ghost pile.
Scary ghost.
It's super good.
That was good. Nice one.
Yeah,
Ghost is great.
Ghost is a really good card. You almost never don't want it. Like, Ghost is a really awesome card, and it will, a lot of the time, guide your decision of when to trash that Haunted Mirror. I do think it's usually worth hanging on to the Haunted Mirror until you can gain a Ghost off of it.
For sure.
And trashing it too early. Because
I'd agree.
normally you want to trash your coppers. You just do it whenever you can. I think you hang on to Haunted Mirror.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
You really need some draw to enable Cemetery, because you have to hit 4 and then have stuff in your hand that you want to trash. So that's
Right.
easier to do if you're drawing a lot of cards.
And
you also want to line up your Haunted Mirror with the action that you need to discard.
yeah, so that kind of puts it in the same category as we talked about Mint being in, where it's not really the usual early game trashing that you use to just get control of your deck. It's kind of mid-game trashing that you build to get the most value out of, especially if you need to also have an action in your hand that you've held back to discard a Haunted Mirror.
Yeah, you also need to, like, trash more than one card, or else, like, why? Because Cemetery is dead, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, Cemetery is dead. It's a dead card. It's a Cemetery.
Because everyone in it is dead.
Oh, yes!
Ghosts. Alright.
So I used to give it a 7, and it's still a 7. I hadn't really changed my opinion on this bad boy.
The points that you get from it are really incidental. It almost doesn't have to give you points to fill the same role that it
but
plays.
you know, it's $4 for 2 points.
Yeah.
Solid.
Yeah, sometimes you'll buy it instead of Duchy if you're in the last few turns of the game and you need it.
Yeah, that Ig Cemetery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably not that great.
I mean, if there's draw, it's probably good.
Sure.
But draw is good with Cemetery. It has very little to do with that.
Right. Also, I don't think the Ig Rush or Ig at all would be any good at all if Cemetery is out.
Well, you know... why do you gotta poop on my parade, man?
Sorry, man.
That's fine. I forgive you.
Yeah, so speaking of poo...
Yeah? Oh, yeah, Puka.
That's the next card.
Nice.
Yeah, so Puka is a 5-cost action, and it lets you trash a treasure from your hand. You cannot trash Cursed Gold, which is its heirloom. But if you do trash, you can draw 4 cards.
Huh?
So you may trash a treasure from your hand other than Cursed Gold for +4 cards. Cursed Gold is a gold that starts in your deck instead of one of the coppers, or in other words, it's a treasure that gives you 3 money, but when you play it, you gain a curse.
So, curses are really bad.
You generally try to avoid them.
But, like, you can always open with a 5-er if you have Cursed Gold in your life.
Yeah, and there are times when you can open with things that are normally disqualified, like a 7-er or a 6-er.
That would be pretty hot.
Like, you could open with a Forge or an Expand or something, and that's... Cursed Gold screws with the opener in ways that it's kind of hard to comprehend.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times it's worth it to do that. On the other hand, like, it's, a lot of times it's worth it to just never play your Cursed Gold. If there's no way to trash the curses...
And Puka doesn't give them to you. Puka doesn't even trash Cursed Gold, and it doesn't trash the curses. Yeah.
So that's a little rough. I really like what this does to the game, but you know, you got to be real careful about your Cursed Gold.
Yeah, it makes the opener super high variance too, because there as many options as it creates, it shuts down just as many, assuming that you're not willing to play your Cursed Gold. Because like you're not necessarily starting with the same number of money that your opponent did.
You could be that guy that holds on to their Cursed Gold and doesn't play it until all the curses are out. And then, BAM!
They're going to be sorry.
No downside!
Yeah.
That's how you get them.
Yeah, so how are all the curses running out if...
Hey, hush your mouth. It can happen.
Alright. Yeah.
So anyway, this, this is just the heirloom. Puka is a good card.
Sure.
It's a really good card.
Yeah, like it's one of those cards that you'll normally like save up to. You might even forego other thinning options early on because you plan on thinning with Puka.
You can always open with a Puka.
Right. Oh, that's true. That's true. Do you think it's worth taking the curse usually to open with the Puka?
Depends.
Yeah.
A lot. It depends a lot on if there's curse trashing.
Sure.
I gave Puka an 8 before. I'm gonna give it a 7 now. I think it's still pretty close, but it passed like an arbitrary mental distinction in my brain, and now I feel like it's a 7.
I think it's actually closer to a 6 in my mind.
But okay, but when you trash a copper from your hand, it's like gaining a lab.
It's like that, and then you play 2 labs.
And then you play
lose
some
an
labs,
action.
and then you lose an action, so you play a sea hag.
Yeah.
It's pretty much that.
It's
Only they don't
exactly
gain
that.
the curses.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Puka.
So that's Puka.
Yeah, I think like a lot of the time if there are other options that do similar things to what it does, they're as worth going for as Puka. Like, it's really hard for it to keep its value in your deck in the mid-game because similar to Spice Merchant, it needs to want to trash those cards to really hold its weight.
You also have to line up your Puka with something to trash, which is non-trivial.
Yeah, so like in the mid-game, using it as a means of controlling your deck and making your turns consistent is pretty difficult. So, yeah, I think that a lot of the time Puka is really good to go for if there's some trash for benefit as well, because similar to Spice Merchant, eventually you could just get rid of the Puka and get some benefit out of it.
I think just other trashing in general, even if not for benefit, it really does benefit Puka.
Well, yeah, other trashing is really good with Puka too, because it means you can play the Cursed Gold with impunity. Not impunity, but...
With complete impunity.
Yeah, it's like you didn't even gain a curse if you just trash it.
Which is like gaining a lab.
Yeah.
Yep. Alright.
Yeah.
Alright, here's my favorite card in all of Nocturne.
It's really cool. It's a lot of people's favorite card.
It's also hated by some people, but I don't care about their opinions.
Really?
Because my opinion is strictly better.
Who hates this card?
Some people.
Alright, let's get into it.
So, Secret Cave, it's a $3 action. It's also duration. Gives you card in action. It says you may discard 3 cards. If you did, then at the start of your next turn, $3. So you give up some stuff this turn to get money at the start of your next turn. Now, money at the start of your next turn is, not a useful resource for having at the start of your turn. But hey, it's money.
Yeah. I mean, so it's a cantrip that takes away some stuff from this turn and gives you some stuff for next turn. Even if you discard 3 coppers, you are netting some value because there is this very, very generalized concept that 1 good turn is better than 2 kind of good turns. Like, as in, like, buying 1 gold is usually better than buying 2 silvers. But you could look at it that way. There's some value in banking your value.
The same generalized concept says that cards are more valuable resources than dollars.
Right.
So, like, this mini Tactician is... it's not, like, super great. But, it's a cantrip also that you're not required to do it. So.
Yeah, being able to discard cards mid-turn, of course, has some synergies with things like Menagerie and Diplomat.
Menagerie. So
stuff
good.
like that, yeah. So, the real power of this card...
Oh, yeah, it's got an heirloom, so it's Magic Lamp. So this is basically Aladdin, which is why this is my favorite card. Yeah. Magic Lamp gives you $1, and it says, when you play this, if there are at least 6 other cards you have exactly 1 copy of in play, you trash this, and if you do, you gain 3 wishes from their pile. And wishes are not spirits. They're not in the supply. They give you +1 action, and it says, return this to its pile. If you did, gain a card to your hand costing up to 6. Wishes are... amazing.
Yeah, they're pretty fantastic. You want to get them whenever you can. And if there is any way you think you might be able to enable your Magic Lamp, you usually want to go for it. Pretty much always.
And, like, Secret Cave is a pretty decent way of doing that. Like, it always gives you the chance.
Well, yeah, Secret Cave's really good at it because having one of them means you have another unique card out. And it stays in play for 2 turns, so it's twice as likely to contribute to your Magic Lamp turn.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, like, you get 3 wishes, and what do you wish for? You could just wish for gold all 3 times, and that's pretty good.
Yeah, if it just said gain 3 golds, that would be really good too.
Yeah.
But it's better than that.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, like...
No wishing for more wishes.
No.
Can't do that.
Yeah, like, having a wish in your hand, it really is...
It's empowering.
You look at your hand and you say, what's the best available card on this board for this hand right now, and
then you have it.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
and
it's kind of thematic that way.
And then you sing "Friend Like Me," just like Robin Williams.
And nobody will stop Adam when he's doing it.
Hashtag too soon. Rip in peace, Robin Williams. We hardly knew you. Hopefully you're with Harambe.
Yeah. So,
anyway, I gave this one a 4 out of 10, and I still do. Secret Cave's effect isn't super powerful, but like Magic Lamp and Wish are just so much fun, and I like the good cards.
Yeah, the thing is that like building a deck that can get the Magic Lamp off, that can control how many cards it has in play and which ones, is a deck that has pretty good control over itself, I'd say.
You can just buy one of everything. You can play one of everything strats.
Yeah, but like you have to be able to do it and then have your Magic Lamp. So that means you're probably drawing cards and having actions and sifting and blah, blah, blah.
So maybe 2 of everything strats.
Right, 2 of everything strats.
Yeah, there we go.
Now, so you've built that deck, and that is, probably a better deck than your opponent who didn't do that build, or if he was just, prioritizing consistent payload. And then you get Magic Lamp off, and you gain these 3 wishes, which might as well be 3 gold. So then you have the more consistent deck and the payload, and it's usually worth building to enable Magic Lamp, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, wishes are great.
Yeah.
Good time. Shepherd.
Alright, we need to get something out of the way after we reach Shepherd, but go ahead.
Okay. Shepherd is a 4-cost action. Gives you +1 action. It says discard any number of victory cards, revealing them. +2 cards per card discarded. And it's got an heirloom, which is pasture. It's $1. Gives you $1. It's a $2 treasure, but it's also worth points. It's worth 1 victory point per estate you have.
Okay.
Shepherd's a fine card.
There is no such thing as a Shepherd deck. That's not a thing. Okay, when you say Shepherd deck, what you're saying to me, and there are some people who are talking about using Shepherd as their means of, like, winning the game, and, like, that's not, like, about building a deck that's purpose is to enable Shepherd to discard and draw a bunch of cards, and that's, like, not a thing that helps you win the game at all.
I'm building a laboratory deck.
Yeah.
Isn't it great? I have 7 coppers.
What are you drawing into?
I just told you, 7 coppers.
Oh, okay. Man, I hit 7 every turn. I can buy Duchy every turn, which enables my Shepherds. It's really bad. So, like, Shepherd is a card that you will pick up a couple of in the mid-game, assuming that you're progressively greening and not greening all at once.
Or maybe you pick it up when you start to green.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Either way, it's like Crossroads.
Yeah, it's like filtering, kind of.
Nobody talks about building a Crossroads deck.
I mean, people have talked about it, and it's tough to do. And Shepherd decks, oh god, I said it. They run into a lot of the same problems, which are reliability and what are you doing with your life. And I don't really want to go into all the detail about it. I'm just saying that, like, I've only ever seen it be viable on Design Kingdoms.
Yeah, Kingdoms you designed for it. Like, same things that made Scout viable. Shepherd's better than Scout, but...
Scout Crossroads was only good in puzzles where you got to assume perfect shuffle luck.
Right.
So Shepherd decks are really great if you get to assume perfect shuffle luck.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I live in this universe, and I do not get to do that.
Yeah.
Rip in peace, Chancellor. We hardly knew you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a card that is usually worth buying. Opening with it is pretty terrible.
I guess it's okay.
Why would it be okay? It's not helping you hit 5.
But if you draw it with 3 estates in your pasture on turn 3,
yeah,
that's pretty good.
If you assume perfect shuffle luck, yeah.
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 There you go, Shepherd.
Yeah.
I gave it a 6 before, and I'm still giving it 6.
I'm giving it a 4.
Wow, really? Like, it's a fine card.
It's a fine card, but it's... In my mind, I look at it as, like, percentage of the times I'm going to, like, put it in my deck. And I'm putting this in my deck a little less than half the time I see it.
Well, I'm putting it in my deck about 55% of the time I see it.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Sweet. All right. These are hexes. There's 12 of them. They're like boons, only they're bad.
Yeah, so...
We did it, guys.
The hexers are a different mechanic. The boons give you a variable positive effect for yourself. The hexers give you a variable negative effect, and it's usually for your opponent because they're usually given out by attacks.
Because they're jerks.
Yeah. So, Adam, what do you think about hexes?
Well, I certainly like them more than boons, and you're going to love that. I think they just feel a little better. I kind of wish that the states weren't a thing, because, like, I mean, Deluded and Envious, they're unique effects, and that's cool, but I just wish that you didn't have to have states and extra cards to do it. It's a lot. It's a lot of things to get out of my box when we want to play.
Yeah, Misery, too.
Miserable is probably the one thing I don't like about hexes, because, like, you're getting hexed a whole bunch, and then you look in front of you, and it's like, yep, I'm miserable. I'm not having fun, and...
Correct.
it feels kind of bad.
Yeah.
I wish the name was just different, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's apt. So, it's no secret how I feel about hexes, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. I am going to get it out and explain why, but I wrote an article called How I Learned to Quit Belly Aching and Love the Hex, and you can definitely reference that to get my full opinion on hexes and how they are very different from boons, and I like them quite a bit less than boons. Now, and it's not because I have some, like, weird aversion to attack mechanics in Dominion. I really don't. I like attacks. I think they're good for the game. I don't think these are that good for the game because I think, one, they're very swingy and hugely variable, not just in the kinds of things they do, but how impactful those things are. So there are, at any given time, about half the hexes they're going to absolutely destroy, and half the hexes that do pretty much nothing. And the part that makes that bad, worse than boons, is that these are on attacks for the most part. So, one, that means you can't choose not to play with them. Your opponent can force them on you. And two, attacks are all balanced around costing a little more and doing a little less for you than a card of similar cost, because part of the payload is that it does something mean to your opponent. Now, hexes, that thing may or may not even be happening. It may wreck them, or it may do nothing. And you've already committed greater than normal resources to it just to find out. And you have to do it, because it may wreck them. And they may wreck you with it if you don't.
So Jake and I have talked about this before. I've come to the conclusion, and I'm me, so I'm right about this. I think pretty much all of Jake's complaints about hexes are valid for all other attack cards, and so this stuff means that he just doesn't like attacks.
I do like attacks, though. I like the attacks that have the text on them and that you can look at and say, okay, this might happen to me this game, so I need to play around it. But there's no theme to the hex deck. There's nothing that's saying, like, oh, hexes tend to make you discard cards, so I need to build a deck that can work with 3-card hands. No. You're not saying hexes give out junk, so I need to build a deck that can deal with junk or deal with having my good cards trashed. You don't get any of that from the hex deck because it's doing everything. You can't build around everything.
Sure, and so you're allowed to not like that, but I think to say that it's bad for the game is certainly, like, it's definitely inconsistent with saying that other attacks are not bad for the game. I think it's bad for games that you're playing.
Yeah, I mean, so given that I don't like these, I am going to ignore my opinion on them entirely and just talk about the cards that give them out and the tactical application to them instead.
Sure. Cursed Village.
Yeah.
I gave this an 8 before. I'm going to give it a 7 now. I think this is the most overrated card in the set.
I'd agree.
I think it's a good card.
Yeah.
It's a 7. That's great.
Yeah.
And I think people think this is like a 9 or a 10. And I really don't think it is.
I think it has a a huge potential and a much lower like practical benefit that it's actually going to do for you.
Like, draw to X decks, like, this is great for them. The problem is draw to X decks aren't very good.
Yeah, they're really kind of hard to set up and they're inconsistent.
Yeah, consistency is a big issue, and it's not like just kicking your turn off. It's drawing your cards in the right order so that you have stuff to do, and then you have your draw card, which in this case is Cursed Village.
Yeah.
Using this as like the only village in a draw to X deck, it's not good. It's just not, it's not very powerful. Like, yeah, it's fine, but like, you know what's really good? Drawing your deck and putting all of the cards in your deck in your hand. And then you can play your cards in whatever order you want. You can even play treasures.
Wow.
Treasures are good. Silver, good card.
Yeah,
Gold,
it gives you 2 money.
really good card.
Wish gets you gold, so...
Yeah, you can wish for gold. Like, that's OP.
Yeah, so Cursed Village is... assuming that you only have 1 copy of it in your deck, and you're going to play it first and there's no other draw, like, it's at least a Lost City.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, and Lost City costs 5, and the cost of gaining it is that your opponent gets to draw a card. The cost of gaining this is that you get a Hex.
That's a bigger cost. By a lot.
Is it, though?
It is. It's definitely a
There are
more
3
severe
of them
cost.
that have 0 impact on you at all in your buy phase.
Okay, so like if I'm going to buy 1 or 2 Cursed Villages over the course of the game, sure, I'd believe that. But I'm not going to do that. Why would I want like 1 or 2 of these and not more of them? Villages are good when you have a lot of them.
Yeah, but I think this village is good in scarcer quantities because
it hexes you. Yeah.
Well, and also because you play the first one and it draws you 2 cards, and then you play the second one and it draws you a card, and then you played 5 for a regular village, and that feels bad. And of course, if there's anything that's drawing you cards outside of it, like the beginning of your turn, it shuts down the draw almost entirely.
Yeah, so like you don't want a whole lot of these, and in that deck you're probably just going to be buying other villages instead. Which kind of says that other village was better, question mark? I mean, it's not exactly a perfect comparison, but it kind of suggests that, hey, maybe this card isn't so great because I'm trying not to buy it because it hexes me. Well, it isn't as good for my deck when I have the 5th one.
So I think buying 1 or 2 of them is something you almost always do because if it's at least a Lost Village, if it's the only one in your deck, then it's at least drawing you 2 cards, and that's pretty good. I want at least 1 of that. That's of course. Again,
I still think that's overselling it, but you know.
Yeah. But yeah,
it's a fine card, I guess.
Yeah, don't overdo it with this one, is the moral of the story.
7. 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
There it is, Cursed Village. Alright, Leprechaun. I love this card.
I do too.
So it's a $3 action.
This might be my favorite card in the set, actually.
It's up there for me.
Yeah.
You gain a gold, and then if you have exactly 7 cards in play, you gain a wish from its pile. Otherwise, you hex yourself.
The other thing I really like about this is that it's a self-hexer. So you do get to choose whether or not it's worth it.
Yeah,
that gives you some interesting decisions to make.
I think it's kind of
tracking the hex deck. So.
No.
You can do it.
Yes, you can.
It's not going to help.
There you go. All right, good. Yeah. Glad we agree on that one.
Sure.
So, like, I usually don't like to put a Leprechaun on my deck unless I have a chance of getting the wish and not getting hexed. Gain a gold, hex yourself is only slightly better than not doing it, although it can be good. Gold's a really good card. I just think getting the wish is a huge upside. It's a wish instead of getting hexed. Yeah. And then if you can draw that wish, like, that's just bonkers bananas.
Okay, nobody would argue that if this cost 3 and said gain a gold, gain a wish, that would be massively overpowered if it just said that. So the fact that it doesn't say that means that this is a huge benefit and it's worth considering. Can I build a deck that can actually enable me to do that?
Yeah, sure. And, you know, sometimes I will play the Leprechaun and get hexed. But it's just, I find that the right time to put the Leprechaun in the deck is when you have at least a shot.
I actually play it a little differently a lot of the time, and maybe my way is a mistake, but I a lot of the time will open with the Leprechaun unless I need to open with something else that thins. But gaining gold early on, even if you are taking the hexes, is a huge boost to your econ. It's boosting the value of your deck quite a bit, even if you are taking hexes for it.
Sometimes it's right.
Yeah.
I gave Leprechaun a 7 before, and I'm giving it a 7 now, and that's not just for thematic reasons.
Sure.
I actually think that's what the power level is.
Yeah, I would give it that, if not higher. I might even say an 8, because, like, gaining gold is really good.
Yeah, you could be right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't fault you for rating it 8.
Sure, so, speaking of gaining gold...
Oh yeah, hey, it's Skulk. So it's a $4 action, it's also an attack, and it gives you a buy when you play it, and then it hexes your opponents. And then when you gain it, you gain a gold.
Yeah. This is interesting, because now gold costs 4, and the cost of buying it that way is that you take a Skulk, which is maybe not a card that you want to play.
Skulk is a fine card. Like,
well, I mean, if you do want to play it, all the better.
I think you want to play it. I think it's fine. I think it's a good card.
Yeah.
I was actually not so warm on this before. I gave it a 4 before. I'm giving it a 6 now, and that's because Skulk, I think, is a fine card to play. Getting hexed a lot is annoying, so Skulk does that.
Yeah, don't underestimate the fact that you can open with a gold. Like, that's... Sometimes it's not always the right call, but sometimes it definitely will be.
Yeah. I mean, it feels a little bad that gaining an extra card increases the chances of your Skulk missing the shuffle, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do, man, and opening with a Skulk is fine, getting a Skulk is fine, hexing your opponent is great. 6 out of 10, man.
Yeah. It's a good card.
Yeah. Let's talk about Tormentor.
Okay, so Tormentor is a $5 action, and it's a $5 silver terminal action. It gives you 2 money. And then it says if you have no other cards other than Tormentor in play. So if you just play the Tormentor, it's terminal, that's it. Gain an imp from the imp pile. That's pretty good. Otherwise, each other player receives a hex. So you either play it just by itself and get an imp. That's what you're doing with it that turn. Or you play a village and then play it, or a cantrip and then play it, or some other means of it. And instead of gaining the imp, you attack your opponents.
Yeah.
Which one do you usually find yourself trying to do when you've bought Tormentor?
Hexing. It's really hard to get the imp from this.
So, when you buy Tormentor, what do you... Like, what's going through your head? What makes you buy it?
What's going through my head is meh. What makes me buy it is because I want my opponents to suffer.
Alright.
5 out of 10.
How often, would you find yourself ever just having a less good turn than you would have to just play the Tormentor terminal to just get the imp?
Never. I don't think I would ever do that.
Okay. I've done it before. I don't know if I was right. I think I won the game, but it's hard to remember.
Yeah, well...
I win so many games.
Yeah, they just all run together or whatever.
Yeah, I get that a lot too.
Yeah.
Hashtag first world problems.
Okay, this next card is called Werewolf, and I think it's one of the more powerful cards in the set.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
It's like Smithy, only better, and we all know that Smithy is OP.
Hashtag nerf Smithy.
Please, Donald, please nerf. It's time. Please.
Yeah.
It's been 11 years. Please nerf Smithy. It's too good.
Yeah. We've been suffering for 11 years.
Yeah.
Under the tyranny of Smithy.
Hashtag tyranny of Smithy.
Yeah, so Werewolf.
It's a $5 action. If you play it as an action, it just gives you 3 cards. But it's also a night card. If you play it in your night phase, you hex your opponents instead.
Yeah. So
drawing cards is great.
Yeah, there is one reason that this card is massively powerful, and it's pretty obvious. It has 4 types, so if you play it with Courtier, you get all 4 bonuses.
That's it, yep, we did it.
We solved it. No, okay, so it's a really powerful card outside of that.
Yep.
And Yeah, I mean...
Draws 3 cards, man.
It doesn't need a whole lot of support, either, to gain a lot of value for your deck, because if you draw it dead, you are kind of happy. You just play them as attacks.
Yay, hexing.
Yeah.
Theme.
Oh, One time I top-decked Werewolf with the Moon's Gift. It was so thematic. Yeah.
I bet they were happy together.
Yeah.
This guy looks like he goes for those type of ladies, right?
Yeah, I actually really like the card art, because it's, like, kind of hard to tell what's really going on here.
He does not look like Darian at all.
Is he, like, having a smoke? Like, is he smoking a pipe?
I guess.
And, like, how is he a werewolf? Like, what about this indicates a werewolf?
Well, he's
to
not
you?
in werewolf form.
Okay, he's in draw 3 cards. He's in Smithy form.
Yeah, it's like when Tuxedo Mask is Tuxedo Mask instead of just Darian.
Yeah, okay.
But Serena has a crush on him pretty much regardless.
Sure. So, yeah, Werewolf is a really powerful card, and there are a lot of cards in Dominion that say +3 cards in them, in some iteration or another, and most of them cost 5 or more. I think that it's pretty likely that you'll have the choice between Werewolf and one of them, like Journeyman or something. I think that Werewolf is kind of cream of the crop in terms of draw cards, terminal draw. I think you usually take it over a lot of its other mutually exclusive cousins.
Alright. I gave it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd give it a 7.5 or an 8.
Okay, there's no 0.5s.
Don't do that to me.
I'm doing it to you.
Okay.
No 0.5s.
Okay, I'm going 8. I think it's a really powerful card.
Bold move, man.
I
Not
think
even a 7.5.
I think it's usually going to run out, too. Like, the Werewolf split is something you'll find yourself talking about in a lot of games.
Yeah. In fact, I'm just going to... Next game, I'm going to talk about it even if Werewolf's not in it.
You're just going to talk about the Werewolf split.
Yeah.
Neither of us won the Werewolf split. That was the problem.
And that's why we all lose.
Yeah. So, Changeling.
Yeah, it's a $3 night card. Trash this, gain a copy of a card you have in play. And then there's this weird thing. In games using this, when you gain a card costing 3 or more, you may exchange it for a changeling. So that means that there's like a lot more clicking when you play online.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, no, they actually I like their, like, smart gain feature.
Like, a lot of times it's not smart enough.
Yeah, no, I agree, but it's surprisingly good at what it does for what it is.
I guess. I wish it... whatever.
It was better. Yeah, so Changeling is a really interesting card, and not just because the art looks like some rejected Nickelodeon cartoon. Like, it has so many weird interactions and synergies. The first time this card really came onto my radar was right after we did the Rats episode, and we played a game that had rats in it, and you found out that it has this really weird interaction where you play rats to draw a card, trash a card, and then you don't have to gain a rats if you don't want one, and then it turns out to be really good for big money because you can trash it and gain gold.
It's not really good for big money.
It's so good for big money.
It's like mediocre at best.
It's amazing. So yeah, I mean, the main significance of Changeling is that effect of gaining it instead. It adds like a rule to Dominion.
I suppose. I mean, yeah, the synergies are everywhere, and gaining changelings instead of stuff is kind of cool. I feel like, you have to draw the changeling an extra time before it is the thing that you want, so that's annoying.
Yeah.
And you have to line it up with the thing that you want, which is not always going to happen.
Yeah, straight up buying Changeling feels bad.
Yeah, it means I couldn't afford what I wanted. And I'm hoping to get lucky and get it anyway.
Yeah, I think I usually take silver over a Changeling if I'm buying.
Oh, so you're saying that... So, like, Changeling does have synergy with silver gainers. But, like, man, I'm just hearing a lot of people talk about how, like, silver gainers get so much better with Changeling, because now you don't have to gain a silver.
Oh my god, that's so good. Yeah, my opponent gained an embassy. Screw you, your plan is foiled.
Silver's a good card.
It's so good.
Anyway, that's all I have to say about
Yeah.
it. I gave it a 3 before, and I'm giving it a 4 now, just because I think there's more synergies that I had considered before.
Yeah, I think that actually those weird little gimmicky things that turn out to be more powerful than they look with Changeling are present more than half of the time when you see it.
Oh.
I think they're going to be if you look for them, and I don't know if that makes Changeling a hugely influential card in Dominion. I am saying though that whenever you see it out, give it some thought. Think about the different puzzles. That
Are
might
you
fit
telling
into.
me that I should be thinking about Dominion cards while I'm playing Dominion? Stop being ridiculous.
Sorry. Let's get back to Cultist Big Money.
Okay. Alright, Cobbler.
Cobbler!
It's a night duration, costs 5 at the start of your next turn. Gain a card to your hand, costing up to 4. It's a really good card.
Yeah.
I gave it an 8 before and now. Like, it's solid. It's really great.
I'd agree with the 8. I mean, it's a gainer that doesn't take up an action because if it's a night card. That in itself is noteworthy. The fact that it gives it to you at the beginning of your turn means you get to react to what you've drawn and choose what the best card is for your current hand.
Yeah, super
Like,
great.
that's a watered down version of why Wish is so good. So, yeah, it's a great card.
It's great. Super great.
Buy it. Do it.
Yeah.
Get it out. Even games where it's not
Yeah.
cool, just get it out and buy it.
Yeah, just like shuffle the cobbler
The
pile
black
into your
market
starting deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll probably win that game.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, Conclave. Conclave is a forecast action that gives you 2 money and says you may play an action from your hand that you don't already have in play. If you do, +1 action. Her hair is fabulous, I just want to say.
Her curls, like, she looks like she's really spent some time on them, and she's using a product that's really helping that color just pop with the lighting.
Yeah, it's very healthy. She has a healthy coat of hair on her head. She also looks really concerned about something. Like,
What would she be concerned about? The fact that she's just Festival without the buy?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly. Yeah,
Wait.
for some reason, everyone reads this card and thinks it's amazing. Myself included.
Yeah,
by
you
the
did
way.
it on the
Yeah.
podcast.
I'm not even saying that I'm immune to this, but like you read this card and for whatever reason she puts you under her spell and makes you think that she's this amazing enabler.
It's probably the
face,
right?
Yeah, that's a big part of it. But
Yep.
there's but like she's good. She's not amazing. Like it's kind of like you put it in the same decks where you want Festival. And you play it like Festival.
Except you don't get the buy. Oops.
And it costs 1 less, and it's just like that, other than that stuff.
Sure. Crypt.
Crypt.
Oh, I gave it a 6 before, and now I give it a 5. Oops. I gave it too many. But no. I mean, it's a village, and it's great, but it doesn't work for very many times. Anyway, Crypt.
Sure. Crypt.
It's a $5. It's a night duration card. Set aside any number of treasures you have in play face down under this. While any remain, at the start of each of your turns, put one of them into your hand.
Yeah, this is an interesting card, and I will definitely give full disclosure and say I have no idea what to make of it.
I think it's kind of a combination of mint and archive, and I don't need to explain it anymore, because that's perfectly clear. You just take the 2 cards and you mush them together in your hands, and then now you have Crypt.
Yeah, silly putty, put the cards together, blue tack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
GG.
Stapler.
Just like, and then put it in a sleeve.
Yep.
Because I sleeve my cards.
Yeah, I don't.
I talked about this in the other video. I don't have anything to add.
Yeah, so the thing about Crypt, I understand what it does physically, but I don't really think I get how to use it. The thing is, like, it does feel like Mint and Archive, but it plays so differently from both of those.
Yeah, you have to mash them together.
Right. But, like, it kind of, like, tells you want to be putting a lot of cards under it, so you get max value.
Yeah.
But, like, 1, that requires a lot of building, kind of like a good mint buy. And 2, that's not always a good idea, because it takes all the money out of your deck, kind of like over-trashing might.
Yeah, so I would only want to put a lot of coppers under this guy. And I would want to draw a lot of cards so I could draw a lot of coppers with Crypt.
And you gotta line that up with your Crypt, right? So.
Yeah. So you have to draw a lot of cards. But
Yeah.
then once you do that, your deck is amazing, and it'll be amazing for several turns.
Yeah, so maybe it combos pretty well with those one-off draws like Madman.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
Set up a good crypt turn.
Mm-hmm. Just like Mint.
Yep.
Totes.
Yeah, but I will definitely go out and say that I feel like I'm missing something when I read this card and try to play with it, and I look forward to somebody who's much better at Dominion than I am totally wrecking me and showing me everything this card is capable of.
I'm right here for you, bro.
I don't feel like I get Crypt right now, and I feel like there's some thing I have to be missing. There has to be some hidden potential that I haven't unlocked with Crypt.
Yeah. That's very thematic.
Yeah, right.
It's probably a dead body.
Yeah, or maybe it's just a bad card and I haven't figured that out yet and I keep trying to make it work, but...
That's a 5.
Yeah.
5 out of
I
10,
mean,
man.
Yeah, for its cost I might even rate it lower, but that's just because, again, I haven't unlocked its potential.
Yeah. Haven't gotten into that dead body to take its wallet.
What?
Den of Sin!
Alright, so...
$5 night duration at the start of your next turn, plus 2 cards. And this is gained to your hand instead of your discard, so you get to play it right away after you buy it.
Let's talk about Wharf.
It's a card.
Alright. So, Wharf's a really good card.
Uh-huh.
Most people have even said it's maybe the best card in Dominion.
What's up there, I guess?
Half the power of Wharf is that it draws the cards at the beginning of your turn.
Yeah, so like this is half as good as Wharf.
Yeah, this is half a Wharf.
This is amazing.
This should cost 2.5.
It does not.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's really good.
I think the better comparison is Lab, right? Instead of getting
Sure.
the 2 cards now, you get them at the start of your next turn.
Yeah, and the edge it has over Lab is that you kind of get to treat it like Expedition. You get to buy it and make your next hand really good.
Having cards at the start of your turn is the best time to have them.
Yeah, definitely. And also, if you've been tracking your deck and you kind of know what's coming up, you can do a Den of Sin buy to make certain cards miss the shuffle. Like you can...
Or you can use to line up that crypt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, you
So
know,
good.
if you know that you've got a really good chance of lining up your village and smithy or whatever, because you haven't seen them yet, and only if you buy Den of Sin, it's probably worth doing.
So good.
Yeah.
But it's a duration card, so you kind of need twice as many of them to really get the good effect out of it. But hey, I mean, this is a good enough card. I gave it a 7 before. I'll give it an 8 now. It's a solid card. It's really good.
Yeah, and I just want to say from an enjoying the game perspective that all of these 2-hand gainers are collectively probably my favorite part of the expansion, because I think that they have unlocked a very turn-by-turn tactical way of playing Dominion, which I really enjoy.
Between that and Hexes, which one do you like more?
I'd say I like these quite a bit more.
Oh, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I know.
I thought you were going to say the peanut butter blossom cookie that we had.
Yeah.
But that wasn't it.
The peanut butter cookie was pretty good, though.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, but it definitely rewards you for deck tracking. All these 2-hand gainers do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so Ghost Town.
Yeah, you read this one.
Yeah, so Ghost Town is a 3-cost night duration card. It is also gained to your hand. The effect of Ghost Town is that at the start of your next turn, plus card and plus action. And again, you gain it to your hand.
Yeah, so this is like... It's like Village, only you get an next turn, I guess.
Yeah, so, okay. This is a pretty good card a lot of the time, but it's also the card I think I see most overbought, or most bought when a silver would have been better. Like that's the mistake. I see that particular mistake made with this card more than any other one, I think, because I think people are looking at it as draw, and it's not, except for the turn you buy it. It's you're giving up a card this turn to get an extra card next turn.
It's not really draw. I mean, it kind of is, but not really.
Yeah, I think it fills actually a similar space in decks to Fishing Village, because it is something that you can play to say that at the next turn you're very likely Or it's something you can have in your deck to make it very likely that you're going to have plus action when you need it at the beginning of your turn.
Yeah, that's why this is real good. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not really draw, but it is something to say that you always have plus action if you have a lot of them in your deck.
That's true. Ghost Town's, I mean, it's a village, which means it's real good.
Yeah.
And I think it's really good at being a village because it gives you actions to start your turn.
Yeah.
I gave it a 7 before, but I give it an 8 now. I think it's a great card. Super great.
Yeah, and it's also, again, kind of... Like, all of these feel a little bit like variations on the Expedition event. Right.
Cards at the start of your turn does feel like that, yeah.
Yeah. Guardian. This one is another night duration that gets gained to your hand. Until your next turn, when another player plays an attack, it doesn't affect you. And at the start of your next turn, plus coin. Again, it's gained to your hand, so you get to play it the turn you buy it. Ideally, what you're doing is tracking your opponent's deck and buying it right before they have an attack in their hand.
Yeah, that's really hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's
Feels
the dream.
bad, man. If it's the dream.
And if you're not doing that, this card is, like, worse than Copper.
It's so bad. Like, this
Yeah.
this is not a good card for your deck.
No, like... So, like, if getting money this turn is better than having it next turn, then this is worse than Copper.
Yeah, like, this is way worse than Lighthouse. You could just spam Lighthouses and have decent coverage. Unless you don't, which I'm a little salty about that game still. But, like, you can normally have that. With Guardians, yeah, you can spam them, but now your deck is bad because you have a bunch of Guardians.
Yeah. It's like the guy who plays Squire for plus action every time, not realizing that he's playing Coppers. That was me, by the way, at one point. Yeah. Hey, guys.
Happens to the best of us.
I'm really good at Dominion.
Yeah. I gave this card a 4 before, and, like, the more I play with it, the less good I realize this card is. Like, it's a 2. 2 out of 10.
Yeah.
Not a good card.
I think the only time you really do buy it is when you have come across that situation where you've tracked your opponent's deck and you know an attack is coming up. Those boards do happen, and if you're on the lookout for something like that and, you know, keeping...
Well, if you've got a lookout, then
you don't care.
I guess.
Yeah. But, yeah, so, like, I've used it to some avail to, like, dodge my opponent's Sea Hag or something. But
Sea Hag.
I didn't put too many in my deck because, again, it's a bad card.
But not as bad as Sea Hag.
Yeah, especially Sea Hag with Guardian out if your opponent just gets to ignore it.
Yeah, it feels pretty bad.
Yep.
Alright. Monastery.
Ooh.
This is a good card. It's a $2. It's just a night card, and it says for each card you've gained this turn, you may trash a card from your hand or a copper you have in play. Trashing cards is great.
Trashing cards without losing the tempo of not playing them is even better.
Yeah, I mean, copper is not the most fantastic, but, like, hey, playing coppers is better than trashing them without playing them by a lot.
Yeah, that's the only thing that sucks about a Chapel deck is that the turns where you're trashing all your cards, like, you're not doing anything else.
Sure.
Monastery says, you can do something else, too.
Yeah. So it has the upside, like, if I'm trashing 2 cards with this early on, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm, like, really happy to do that. And Monastery's OP if you can make that happen. It's hard to make happen, and usually, like, you're better off just trying to draw a lot of cards rather than trying to line it up with your gainer with no support. But hey, like, Monastery is still a great card. It can still trash estates from hand. It can get rid of the coppers. Like, this is really good. Yeah. I gave it a 9 before, and I'm going to tone it down to an 8, but, like, my opinion of the card hasn't really changed. It just maybe slightly.
I'm giving it an 8.5.
I'm waiting for your real rating.
Okay, 8.75.
Alright, so Jake gives it a 9. Excellent. Next up is Necromancer.
Yeah. So, this is actually maybe my favorite card in the set. I know I've said that about, like, 3 cards now, but but this one I really like because it by itself adds a lot to the game.
There's a lot of things you can do with it.
There's a lot of things you can do with it, and a lot of them are interesting, and some of them are even good. So, it's a 4-cost action. Play a face-up, non-duration action from the trash, leaving it there and turning it face down for the turn. That's a long-winded way of saying that you can only play the same action once with a Necromancer. Like, you can't keep playing the same one from the trash.
You can't trash a Necromancer and then cause an infinite loop.
Right. So, the setup, though, you put 3 zombies in the trash, and these zombies are 3-cost actions that say you may trash an action card from your hand. Zombie Apprentice, sorry. You can trash an action from your hand for plus 3 cards, plus 1 action. I just want to point out that Zombie Apprentice being a zombie means that you have incentive to trash other actions, giving Necromancer other targets. Zombie Mason, trash the top card of your deck. You may gain a card costing up to 1 more than it. And Zombie Spy. And as we all know, Spy is OP. Plus 1 card, plus 1 action. Look at the top card of your deck, discard it, or put it back. So those are the 3 things that Necromancer can do at the start of the game.
Yeah, so Zombie Mason is the best one, right?
It's the one that you're playing most often, especially at the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of the time you'll find yourself playing Zombie Apprentice near the mid-game, or even early game if you just want to give your Necromancer more options. But
I'm usually sad to do it, though.
Sure.
And same thing with Zombie Spy. I'm usually sad to do that. Like, I want to be playing Zombie Mason.
Zombie Spy is a compromise, definitely. Zombie Spy is saying, I don't want to have a complete waste of this Necromancer.
The dog is really excited about Zombie Spy. You can hear her squeaking her Christmas dragon, and she's beating the crap out of that thing.
Lexi seems like she would play Spy.
Yeah, and I think the cat just fell from something upstairs. It's an exciting time here in the Horton household.
Yeah.
It's getting real. I gave this card initially an 8, and I'm giving it a 5 now. Like, it's just not very good at trashing, and that's the main function of the card.
So, I think that if the trashing is the main function of the card, then it's pretty bad at doing it. But the boards where it's going to shine are the boards where that's not all it's doing. I mean, at its best, Necromancer can play kind of like Overlord, right? Like, in the Dream situation, you kind of have your pick of the litter and you can play Necromancer as the best action available. At its worst, it plays a little more like Band of Misfits, where you're playing just kind of the least bad one that you can come up with. But
I guess that's an interesting analogy. I just don't think that it happens very often where you can really do a whole bunch of cool stuff with it. Like, it's fine, it's 5, but man, I really overestimated this.
Yeah, and one thing I will say is that games that any cards that gain out of the trash make Necromancer games really weird. Like any Necromancer game that has Rogue or Lurker, it means you can gain the zombies, which is kind of bizarre.
It's weird, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it almost feels like it was unintentional as an interaction, but he costed them so you could do it, so...
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's weird.
It's bizarre, and that assumes that both those cards are good that game, and both people are going for them, but...
I'm gonna deny you Zombie Mason with my Rogue.
Yeah, and then
now you have to trash it from my deck.
Somehow, and now I have Zombie Mason in my deck. The thing about these zombies... So I played against an opponent who was doing that, and much to his dismay, the zombies are actually really bad cards if they're in your deck. And you have to draw them and play them.
But
like,
you can
really
at least
terrible.
trash Zombie Spy to Zombie Apprentice.
That's true.
So there you go.
Yeah, like, Museum was even in that game, and I didn't want them.
Harsh, man.
Yeah.
That's sad. Alright, here's... Oh boy, this is what people have been looking forward to. Night Watchman.
Night Watchman.
It's a $3 night card. Says look at the top 5 cards of your deck, discard any number, and put the rest back in any order. And you gain it to your hand when you buy it instead of your discard. I gave this a 0 on my first impression. Like, this is Scout. It takes up a card and it doesn't do anything for this turn. And I was not thinking of 2 things. First is the last shuffle of the game. You can buy this, gain it to your hand, and set up a good province turn. Sure, fine. Maybe I'll give it a 1 based on that. Okay. But it turns out if you buy this on turn 2 of the game, you top deck your turn 3 buy, and you pretty much set it up with whatever cards you want, and that's kind of really, really good. I just said kind of really. Please, I'm embarrassed. It's good to do that.
So one thing I'll point out is that this is another 2-hand gainer, and that means that what you're saying there with the last shuffle of the game, setting up a province turn or setting up a combo between 2 cards, that's true at every stage of the game, to a lesser degree, sure. At every point in the game, if you've been tracking your deck, you can decide whether or not Night Watchman is a worthy buy to set up a much better turn next turn than you would have had.
I think it's certainly at its best on turn 2.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, if you can always have that information, though, if you're keeping track.
Sure, I guess. I think that also after turn 2, if you get the Night Watchman, there are many cases where you can continue to play your Night Watchman and cause these shuffles that can be beneficial to you. I think there's strategic space to be explored here. Yeah. And it could be that, like, Night Watchman even has more potential. So, like, I gave it a 0 before, and right now I want to give it a 4. And I'm not even sure about that. Like, this card really isn't that bad. If you open with it and some other trasher, like, you're in good shape.
Sure.
Because you can just trash this stupid thing when you're done with it.
Yeah, I mean, its on-gain effect is potentially pretty good. I mean,
as long as you're skipping like a copper and an estate with it whenever you play it, like it can be an overall good force in your deck if you're careful.
Yeah. The other thing that it has some synergy with, just like Scouting Party, is any card that you have more than one copy of that you really need to line up together. So, if you're really going for the Double Urchin, or you're really going for the treasure maps, buying a Night Watchman on turn 4 can definitely, or turn 3 or 4 can make it much more likely that you can get those to collide.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Anyway, there's some potential to this card. I certainly wasn't thinking about it originally. It's not a 0. It's probably a 4. That's my guess. But I could still be, like, off. I don't know. This one's weird.
I like the art, though.
Yeah, sure. It's pretty decent. All right, we're getting there.
Okay. This is probably the strongest card in the set.
I think so.
Yeah, this is Vampire. Vampire is a knight card, and it says each other player gains a hex. Oh, by the way, this costs 5. It's a knight card that costs 5. Gain a card costing up to 5 other than Vampire, and then you exchange it for a bat. And the text of bat is, by the way, bat costs 2, if that ever matters, which is interesting, because it's not in the supply. You only gain bats off vampires. So trash up to 2 cards from your hand. If you trashed any cards, exchange this for a vampire. So it goes from vampire to bat, back to vampire, and the vampire gains you an awesome card and attacks your opponent, and the bat trashes cards and feeds to become a vampire again.
Do not feed Jasper to the bat, okay? Don't ever do that.
Although...
you are a terrible person if you do that.
That's kind of funny.
That's not funny, Jake. Jasper didn't do anything to deserve that.
And he never will.
If anything, feed the bat to Jasper.
So, a lot of the time you will be feeding a bat to another bat, which is kind of messed up. But, yeah.
It's also fine.
So, this card's real good.
It does a lot of stuff, and it does it pretty well.
And all the stuff it does is stuff you really want to do at pretty much every phase of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, 5 is where cards start being really good, right? Like, that's kind of that's why we talk about why hitting 5 is pretty much always important. Because there's always something that's, like, you want a lot of.
Yep.
And, of course, it attacks your opponent, and it doesn't take up an action, so, like, the number of attacks in Dominion that don't take up an action to play are pretty scarce. So the fact that you can... Because, like, it lets you attack your opponent multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Vampire can do that, and that's pretty good, even if you draw it dead. So, like, all of these night cards...
You can't draw it dead.
Right, even if you would draw it dead if it were, like, an action.
Yeah.
Like, all of these night cards that do something for you are kind of synergized to a degree with Terminal Draw. Vampire especially, because what it does for you is amazing.
It's a really good card. I gave it a 9 before. I'm giving it a 9, solid 9. This is the best card in the set.
Yeah.
All the things it does are really good. It's really good at doing all those things.
It's on the do not ignore list, ever.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really good. Alright, Raider.
Speaking of really good cards...
Mm.
Okay. Gold is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this
Okay.
this card costs 6. It's a night duration, and it's an attack. Each other player with 5 or more cards in hand discards a copy of a card you have in play, or they reveal they can't. At the start of your next turn, you get plus $3. So it's like a gold, only you get the money next turn, and then you have this attack to go with it. The attack is like discard a copper, right? I mean, most of the time that's what it is.
The attack rarely amounts to anything more than a cut purse attack.
So waiting to get your money until next turn in order to attack them, that's not super stellar.
Well, and it's orange, so it's going to miss the shuffle twice as often as a gold would have. And this is very comparable to gold in almost every way. It costs the same, and it fills the same slot in your deck. In terms of, like, you don't care if you draw it off a terminal or whatever, but...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it feels a lot like gold.
Yeah, so, like, if you really need something that says attack on it, yeah, I guess this will work.
Yeah, I mean, if it didn't say each player with 5 or more cards in hand, I would, start thinking about this deck that plays a bunch of raiders and whittles my opponent's hand down card by card. That wouldn't be fun to play against, but it would be something you could build toward.
It would make Raider a better card.
Yeah, but, like...
But it's not.
There's a lot of wheels that can start turning where you think about, like, ways you could enable it, where you hold back your coppers and make them discard a silver, or something like that, but... Was it worth it in the end?
If you trash your coppers, sure.
Yeah. Well, that would make it kind of a win more card, because it's like, is your deck better? Great, attack them with it.
I guess, and that's normally around those are normally the situations where you want to, like, have something that says attack on it.
Sure. Yeah.
This isn't very good. I gave it a 3 before. I'm giving it a 2 now. It's not a very good card.
Yeah, it's pretty rarely going to be worth it, I think.
Yeah. All right, and now now let's talk about all the vanilla cards in the set. They kind of have some weird thing going on.
Yeah, so we have moved past all the cards that didn't introduce some new mechanic, and we're into the remaining cards in the set that played with the old mechanics. Yeah.
There's 2 of them.
Yeah, all 2 of the remaining cards have no new gimmick. They're just cards.
Nice.
Yeah.
So here's Tragic Hero. It's a $5 action.
I just want to say the art on this thing is pretty badass. Like, I don't even know what's going on here. He's got, like, birds behind him. His sword's all bloody. He looks sad. He looks tragic, even.
Wow, his sword is bloody. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, his sword's, like, covered in blood. Like, what did he just do?
Something heroic.
And tragic, yeah. Like, it had to be done.
Yeah.
And he had to do it.
And now he's getting eaten alive by birds.
Yeah. Okay.
So it gives you plus 3 cards and a buy, and it says if you have 8 or more cards in hand after drawing, trash this and gain a treasure. Usually that's not great.
Yeah, that's normally like a limiter on how good Tragic Hero can be. It's not the goal most of the time to be trashing Tragic Hero to gain. Now, if you just straight up play the Tragic Hero, you have 7 cards in your hand because you had 4 and drew 3 because you played the Tragic Hero.
Mm-hmm.
So it only goes off if you find a way to play multiple Tragic Heroes or you drew something else beforehand.
Right, and those things are really good to do and to continue doing, so losing your Tragic Hero can be very inconvenient.
Yeah, not as much as it seems, though, because the Tragic Hero... The deck that loses its Tragic Hero that way is having really explosive turns and putting more payload into its deck, and it can
Yeah.
always buy another one. It has the tools to do that just on Tragic Hero. So this is one of those cards that reminds you that in Dominion, your deck doesn't need to function forever in a vacuum. Your deck really only needs to function long enough to get the job done, and the job is getting more points than your opponent can get. So the compulsory trashing of Tragic Hero, in my experience, isn't as big of a drawback as it looks.
That's probably true. I think the card's at its best when you can draw that treasure you gain.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, you are getting a pretty good immediate benefit out of that.
Yeah. So yeah, there are definitely some really cool decks that could overbuild a little bit and put a bunch of Tragic Heroes in them, and rely on Tragic Hero to gain your payload too. It's interesting. It plays in a way that a lot of these plus cards haven't in terms of building.
Yeah, it's certainly a unique effect.
Yeah.
I gave it a 5 before. I'm giving it a 5 now.
Yeah, I'll put it at like 5.5.
So 5. Great.
6 maybe.
Yeah.
What's 6 minus 0.5?
So Jake gives it a 5.
All right, so
And finally, Faithful Hound. Look, he's so cute.
he's so faithful.
Speaking of faithful hounds, there's a faithful hound right there.
Well, she's not a hound.
Okay, well, she's a retriever, but she's a dog, and she's faithful, and she's also hungry. I don't think she's
I'm with
been
you,
fed
Lexi.
tonight yet. She didn't get any of the peanut butter cookies.
Damn.
But anyway, this particular faithful hound, it's a $2 action. It gives you +2 cards. Neato! But it also has a reaction on it. It says, when you discard this other than during cleanup, you may set it aside and put it into your hand at the end of the turn.
Yeah. So, if you are one of those people who read this card and knew exactly what to do with it when you first read it...
Stop lying.
Yeah, I was going to say, first off, congratulations. Second off, liar. Yeah, it's weird. There are a lot of, I think, hidden synergies with this card that we're kind of just figuring out as we go. I want to give a shout out to somebody who just destroyed me on the online client with this card. He set up this really cute deck that, when I say cute, I mean it was amazing and blew me away. He had a bunch of Faithful Hounds, which I had ignored, and Artificers. And every turn, what he did is discard 8 Faithful Hounds to Artificer, setting them aside, so he put them in his next hand so he could do it again, to gain a province, and then he got to do whatever else with his turn too. So I'm over here gaining a province every turn, he's over there gaining a province and maybe buying another one or buying a duchy or something, because that deck is super reliable too. As long as you draw an Artificer, you get 2 provinces.
It's pretty hot.
Yeah, so it's really interesting, and I bet there's other stuff like that with Faithful Hound. Like, I have to imagine there's some cool synergy with, like, Vault or Storehouse or something.
Storeroom.
Whatever.
Yeah, any of that discardy stuff, like Warehouse. It's nice to have the card in hand at the start of your turn, because then you can just discard it, and you get the other benefits of having discarded the cards. So in Warehouse's case, you get, better cards in your hand, and then you haven't really decreased your hand size, because it's presumably you had more than 5 cards in your hand, because you had some of these lovely dogs.
Well, it turns Warehouse into actual draw, too. Because, like, if you have a bunch of Warehouses, and you have a bunch of these, they're always in your hand.
The Faithful Hound is the draw here, but yes, Warehouse enables that draw.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I gave it a 5 before, I give it a 5 now.
Yeah,
it's kind of okay.
I'd be inclined to agree with that, but I would like for us as a community to come back to this card in, maybe 6 months or a year and see if we've come up with anything. Because something tells me there's probably more here than meets the eye.
We could probably break all of Dominion with just this card. Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Probably can be done.
It's really good with Chapel, because they both cost 2.
Yeah. Synergy.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, so that was Nocturne. Are you still awake?
Are you?
Well, if you are, how about some bread? So this was like a double-decker sandwich. Like, there was so much
Yeah.
nocturnal lunch meat on here that,
Well-
like, this episode is twice as long as normal.
And there was no way it wasn't going to be. We're covering an entire expansion and two people's thoughts on it, so we hope that you have gotten something out of it too, and we definitely want to hear if you think that we were wrong about any of it, or you think you have some of these synergies that we were missing.
Yeah, especially if Jake was wrong, because that's the more likely thing to happen, right?
Yeah, we'll see.
I didn't screw up Night Watchman this time. Or Necromancer. Or Exorcist. Oh, man. Those are the ones that I really screwed the pooch on before.
So as always, though, we are going to be playing a kingdom that has some of the cards, and this time it's easy because we had a whole expansion to deal with. And we're going to talk about our thoughts on what we do in this kingdom, and we're going to then take the next week to play with it a little bit and try different strategies and see who is right. That's what it's all about, is who is right.
Yeah, that's really all that matters.
Yeah, so
So we just shoved a bunch of Nocturne cards in this kingdom, and we're gonna play it, yeah?
yeah, definitely.
So yeah, why don't you read these cards?
Yeah, so in ascending cost order, we have Monastery, Leprechaun, Secret Cave, Golem, Necromancer, Highway, Mandarin, Relic, Border Village, Peddler, and the event is Summon. Once more for our audio-only listeners, we have Monastery, Leprechaun, Secret Cave, Golem, by the way that also means we have Potion, Necromancer, Highway, Mandarin, Relic, Border Village, Peddler, and we have an event, Summon. So, what are you doing here?
Well, there's no plus buy.
There's no plus buy, which means that the highway spam thing is not great. I think that means that.
Usually means that. So, like...
It turns highways into peddlers, and there's Peddler, so...
Yeah, but Peddler costs 8, and Highway only costs 5.
You're right, sorry. Peddler's clearly a better card than Highway,
Duh.
because it costs more.
That's right. So, there's, there's gains, though. You can gain a wish with Leprechaun.
Yeah, and the Wish could gain a province with Highway.
Yeah. That's definitely a possibility. Draw is pretty tight here, though. Looks like your only draw is Necromancer with Zombie Apprentice and also Golem.
Yeah,
That's a little
Golem is
awkward.
technically draw, but it's really bad at it.
Golem's really bad at everything it does.
Yeah. So...
But you can get super thin here. You can get down to, just like Monastery and...
Honestly, my thoughts would be to get maybe a Monastery early, but I would actually think twice about it because I think I'm playing Leprechaun Relic big money and not looking back.
I am not convinced that this deck of super shenanigans is bad here.
Well, I'm getting a Secret Cave and I don't know. I might get a Highway, or I might play the two of everything thing and try to get my Secret Cave off, but other than that, I think I'm just buying a province every turn.
I have grand dreams of playing a Secret Cave, discarding 3 Peddlers to guarantee that my Zombie Mason can turn something into a province. or maybe you just, play a bunch of Highways and then play a Zombie Mason. And then that's it.
Does Zombie Mason say up to?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that works.
I think if you get thin and you do all of this stuff, you just shove Border Villages in the deck and, maybe a Necromancer too. You can probably get a lot of Highways just through a lot of gains. You can activate your Leprechaun with some amount of certainty.
Okay.
I don't know if Golem has a place in that deck.
And if you do activate the Leprechaun and you get a bunch of Highways out, Leprechaun can basically say gain a gold, gain a province, so that could be really good. But
I don't know if this deck is going to work out, but
I
I,
don't
think
think it
it's
has
got
to
a
draw.
chance. Like, I kind of want to try it. Like, I'm going to try it, obviously. I
Yeah.
think it's got a real shot.
Yeah, well, I look forward to seeing if it can outpace just gaining a bunch of golds and relics and maybe enabling Secret Cave, maybe not. I'm curious to see if it outpaces it. I really don't think it will, but we'll find out.
Yeah, we were looking over Kingdoms, came across this one, and Jake's like, oh, this is big money, let's move on. And I'm like, I don't think so. And he says, all right, I'll just beat you a bunch this week.
Yeah.
He's being diplomatic on the podcast here.
Yeah. No, less so off recording.
Yeah.
I'm just a little...
Okay. Thanks for that. He's just mad that I'm not giving away my television or my car to random people.
Look, it's gonna happen, dude.
It's not going to happen. It's not happening. So anyway, I think this has gone on for long enough.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think about everything.
Yeah.
Kingdom, Nocturne, forums, adamhorton.com, YouTube channel, all the stuff.
Screw you on the forums. So you can get in touch with me too.
Yeah,
I'm on the client.
we do stuff.
I'm here.
Yeah, he is here. He's right there. See?
Yep.
All right. Thanks for listening. Hopefully you come back and listen next week when we talk about whatever we're going to talk about next week.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we've gotten a topic set yet. So.
Nah.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for listening. We'll get you next time on Making Luck.
A Dominion podcast.